clear my throat before I hit the stream button, but it's a natural reaction. I hope you are all doing. Oh God, the stream button, but it's a natural. I really can't stand hearing my own voice, although I know a lot of you really do enjoy that. So thank you for making me feel better about that. Okay. What is there to say? For those of you coming in live, I am always apologizing for starting late. The main reason for all of this is I am doing my best to make sure that, like, I'm not... One of the worst habits that's coming out of streaming for me is it makes it so easy to eat out or just, like, you know, grab something on the way home from work. And one of the big justifications I've given for that is like, oh, I want to start on time. Even though I give myself like an hour window with which to start. So one of the things I have been forcing myself to do is, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, me being late is a me problem. I don't, you know, there are other reasons why that may have happened. And it is simply more, a little more financially sound to actually bother to make dinner. So this means, I mean, essentially, I kind of look at it as, sure, I can say, okay, you know, grabbing something on the way home, something like ready-made, is, you know, an expense for streaming, but I very much believe in keeping those expenses down. So, whatever way I want to cut it, this is why I sometimes start later than I want to, and ultimately it's just a matter of me trying to learn to manage my time a little bit better. As always, the Book of Hours is almost upon us. The Kickstarter will be going up on September 3rd. I actually feel like a complete heel because I had some feedback I wanted to give on the Kickstarter preview, and I have not yet done so because I'm really bad at following through on my commitments. But I do have a big cultist-related project, which I was mentioning the data part is done. I've got a first draft of sort of the, well, not even the first draft, but like a sort of I'm soliciting feedback from people version of some of the images that I'm going to be associating with it. And I'm really at a point now where, obviously conditional on the type of feedback I get back, assuming I get feedback, I'm pretty much just going to be writing the thing up, and it will be available on my blog. But I'll be sure to make a joyful noise about that. Nothing about the Epic Store this time. Maybe more people will read it now. But that has been my day/week/month. Who's responsible for this? Design, writing, and coding by Alexis Kennedy. Production, marketing, and biz by Lottie Bevan. UI design and coding by Martin Nerukar. I will always remember or remind you that Martin's game is now out. Nowhere Profit. I believe it is available on Steam, Humble, and Itch. Art by Catherine Unger, Clockwork Cuckoo, Lottie Bevan, and Sarah Gordon. A very special thank you, I should have mentioned this to above, very special thank you to Lottie Bevan, who gave me a wonderful... I sort of sent this off knowing that Weather Factory is in the process of getting the Kickstarter ready to go, but I sent a quick request to help me out on something that I was working on, and I got a really nice and fast reply, which let me have a really fast turnaround on this thing that I was doing. So it is obviously a terrible thing to say of a person, you know, I was not expecting a fast reply, but more so it's like, you know, this is something I'm doing totally on my own, and this is a successful businesswoman who has lots on her plate. And I was surprised and delighted at how I was able to kind of cut through the, maybe not cut through the attention, but to get my my request done quickly. So special thank you for that. Also, actually worth mentioning, Alexis Kennedy. Pretty much everything that he tweets, I'm bound to like and just enjoy. But did have a couple of amusing tales from, I think he was in Berlin for a Ubisoft talk or something like that. Anyways, a bunch of Twitter accounts, very well worth following. But that was a fun anecdote that caught my attention yesterday, I think. Anyways, Catherine Unger, Clockwork Cuckoo, Lottie Bevan, Sarah Gordon did the art. Maribeth Solomon, Brent Barkman, Mickey Erb for Mickey Mar Productions Limited did the music. Same people who did Sunless Sea as well as, I believe, Sunless Sky. You can pick up the soundtrack on Steam. You do not need to own the game to do so, but if you would prefer, you can also get it on your various audio platforms. I use Apple Music, but I am told that it's available on Spotify, and I'm sure all sorts of other things I've never heard of as well. Audio by Sound Cuts, additional writing by Lottie Bevan, additional coding by Fraser McCormick, Chris Payne, Mark Gagne, Lyra Zeider, and Hannah Rose. Mark Gagne and Hannah Rose are two of the new hires for Weather Factory. They'll be helping out on the Book of Hours, and of course, Mark has also been keeping Cultist alive and getting all of the patches and bug reports and all that business taken care of. Additional design by Carolyn Porter and marketing PR by Claire Sharkey, another full-time member of the Cultist team, and the person who, if you are a streamer or other form of content creator / influencer / whatever made-up title you want to give for yourself, probably the person you've spoken with quite recently. Very friendly, and all of these people actually have really enjoyable Twitter accounts. I will also briefly mention Lyra Zeider streams. Is a wonderful stream and does a lot of Jackbox party packs. Hannah Rose is an incredibly intimidating, rhymesmith. Anyways, I did that robot hip hop battles one, and I did not perform well at all, as is sort of tradition for me on such things, but Hannah Rose is frighteningly good at it. So that was a fun little moment. I chose a supremely indecent name, which I believe made the crowd think that I was some rando, so I felt a little bit bad about that, because I know they put a lot of effort into closing off the room, and then I show up with my terrible name again. But anyways, special thanks to Sonia and PK, Matt Hosty, Haley Urias, and literally everyone who has ever sent feedback or a bug report. Thank you. Let's carry on with the medium. And I'm going to have a sip of water, because I kind of rushed to start. Well, I'm later in starting, but I rushed to get to the table and whatnot. So, if memory serves, we got a new pigment from our expedition. I think, Fascination is going to be a problem, but I believe Dread is going to counteract it. I think if memory serves, I did the smart thing, and I didn't leave just a massive problem for myself, waiting for when I got back, but it never hurts to review the position. More importantly, it lets me stack up my cards and all of that. Oh yes, one other thing I wanted to say. There's a little bit of a lull in terms of YouTube. I'm gonna get one of the platforms right one of these days. There was a little bit of a lull in terms of subscriptions, follows, however they track it. But there's been a recent influx of some incredibly nice comments. Not all of them on the Cultist Simulator ones. There have been a few on the Age of Wonders Planetfall stream as well. And it's actually, I'm noticing there's sort of a proliferation of I don't understand why you don't have a bigger audience comments. I actually have some thoughts on specifically why that is, and I've kind of wanted to write them out, but it also feels a little self-serving. I have actually dealt with this problem one other time. I tried to give an honest account of where I thought the sort of the size thing and what matters in that regard goes, and a streamer saw the tweet, basically live streamed him telling me what he thought of me, and I just wound up with a bunch of people inside of my Twitter mentions, which was great for attention. But apparently that is a topic that gets people really angry. And I don't really think I said anything too bad, but I don't know. One way or the other, that is actually less to talk about the size of my my audience so much as the fact that I read them and I actually really appreciate them. because I don't necessarily think like a large following is necessarily the highest thing that somebody in my position can go for. I think, to me, a little bit better signal of success would be something along the lines of, the comment, hey, I bought this game because of you, or I never heard of this before and I'm going to check it out, or something along these lines. Obviously, I don't like try to maximize for it, so I don't go out of my way to say, hey guys, you got to buy this right now. Except for the Epic link, I don't think I have any other ways that I benefit from the sale of a game anymore. But yeah, it is just one of these things. The whole reason why I got into streaming was to be able to share wonderful little games, like whether it's Cultist Simulator, whether it's Planetfall, whether it's Crusader Kings. It is very easy. I can remember this too. Actually, it's funny. Every time I email the people who make this game, Alexis Kennedy or Lottie Bevan, or of course now Hannah. I more tweet at Hannah Rose or Lyra Zeider or Claire. But it's always kind of hard. It's like, oh, they've got a successful game. They're really popular. They don't need to hear from me about how good it is and stuff like that. But I don't know, like on my own side, at least for me, I always like to hear that people liked the stuff. There's really no upper limit on the number of nice things you can hear. So thank you all of you for that. And if you are so inclined, please keep them coming, because they definitely help me on the times when I'm not feeling like a really good contributor to these types of videos. So, all right, I've filibustered long enough. We've got two books to read. I believe we're already on our way. Yes, we're already reading the Tantra. I think we've already translated. No, I actually do not have either language. So no more reading for me until we raid another vault. I am continuing to generate money and mystique to deal with the investigation. We're starting Lockwood Fen. Oh, that's right. I got myself a Pergusagant. I believe that's the first Pergusagant of this playthrough. Still building up acquaintances. We're getting more pigments. I've already nullified one of the visions, and then of course the other fascination, and the next one will be dealt with. Okay, so we're in a decent shape. I don't need to worry about anything coming up in the next season. I might get an unlucky draw with this notoriety, but I mean, this is why I have moth followers, right? Flobe, hey Chalk, just curious, please don't take this the wrong way. Do you think it's because you don't use your cam that your viewership is affected? I personally do not think that that's the case. And there's no way I don't think there's a way to take that the wrong way. If somebody's so insecure with themselves that saying like, look, it's a matter of public record how many people watch my stuff, right? And there's I think to a certain extent, I do occasionally get messages to the effect of, how do I become as big as you, right? So it is really a matter of perspective. Like, to me, I find that a very funny question, because I don't consider myself a large streamer. But obviously a smaller streamer will be like, wow, how did they achieve the impossible? So I know the standard is to have a presence, and I think a lot of streamers are well suited to having an image on the screen, because so much of communication is nonverbal. In my own particular case, it is a very conscious choice. Well, one, I don't actually have a webcam, but people have offered to buy me a webcam. And I mean, I also have, I don't want to just constantly plow money into the streaming thing, but, I have enough sort of disposable income to be able to, buy. I don't think a webcam is a particularly costly, purchase. But in my case, it's a very conscious choice, because the first and the most consistent bit of feedback I do get is about my voice. And while I might have my own hang-ups about it, I'm not going to just tell, people giving me a nice compliment, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I have a terrible voice, or it's a nerdy voice or whatever. So this is an example of a strength that I have, and because I think I'm capable of communicating, I mean, obviously stumble, and probably more so recently than I normally do, because even if I stumble over my words or that, I can normally keep the conversation going. I normally have something to say, and I tend to play a lot of games where there is sort of a strategic component, so there's a lot for me to explain. I don't actually think that the lack of a camera is an impediment. It allows me just more so to focus on my, quote unquote strengths. Now, some people are going to prefer the personal connection that comes with being able to see the individual, and that's fine. In my own case, I don't really think I enhance anything by having my image on it. Normally I wait until somebody like Eyes of Sin is in here who actually knows what I look like, and then they get to say oh no, don't listen to him. He's, he looks perfectly fine. But like the thing is that where I have a unique enough voice that people are going to say nice things about it, I have, a perfectly normal appearance. And so in this particular case, it's just more so playing to strengths, both in terms of the types of games that I play, as well as just sort of my personal endowments. And what I try to do instead is just make something that will fit that specification, for lack of a better term, rather than just try and do something that everybody else is doing. So that's a really long-winded answer, but I hope that covers a bit of what goes into that thought. And the other thing too, I'm sure like if Twitch were to give me access to I was meaning to read the One More Treasure before we went through on this. If Twitch were to give me access to they've got basically track everything on the site. So if they were to give me access to their data sets, I'm sure you could quantify the benefit of adding a a camera or something like that. But in the end, I don't really think it's like, so I guess if you're somebody who wants to like make money on this through sponsorship, and that making that number as large as possible really matters, I suppose in that case you care about the quote unquote average viewer, because you're trying to sort of have the widest possible appeal. But I think for, number one, I do this for fun, but in terms of attempts for growth, I think in my own particular case, it would be better to focus on the things that I'm good at. And clearly there is, there are a lot of very underserved communities in terms of things that they want. And I think that there are better growth opportunities for broadcasters to focus on things that, one, they enjoy doing, and number two, things that not necessarily everybody else is doing. So like once upon a time, only a few people showed themselves while broadcasting. And then for a while, everybody had a video camera. And then it wasn't enough to have a video camera anymore. People had to get a green screen. And then now there's a bunch of people who are getting SLR cameras because they want to get that that sort of soft focus in the background, known as I believe the proper term is bokeh, although, most people refer to it. Bokeh actually refers to a very specific thing about the soft focus, but for the purposes of discussion, we'll say they want that shallow focus that you get either on a wide aperture or like a zoomed in lens. And, look, it's their broadcast. If they want to spend a couple $100 on an SLR and use it as a video camera, that's up to them. But there's always going to be another thing that you quote unquote have to have on Twitch. And the fact of the matter is, Sheriff Eli was someone who kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. Does occasionally broadcast with a camera right now, but that's an example of somebody who's found very rapid success, and didn't feel the need to display himself. Caput Garrett Lupinium. When a human passes beyond the permissible, they were once considered to have become a wolf. Wolf's Head. Did she know Did she know the sun as it was? Hello, Dordox. Oh, not doing bad. I'm kind of taking my time. I guess like my 15-minute introduction was a little bit more on the table, so I think the people who are like scrubbing the video to try and find the actual start of the gameplay got trolled a little bit while I'm answering Flobe's question. And the actual gameplay is starting now, but I'm having a good time. I also got a couple of cultist things done this week, which makes me happy. All right, so I do want to paint with this thing. Oh no, sorry, not paint. I need to eat this. I guess that gives me something to do with my study in a little bit. But I'm going to need to find the balance between... Or no, actually, I guess I don't... No, there's going to be a memory which I need to put in the pale canvas. So I'm going to need to figure out something to do with my my restlessness then. But that's a future me problem. So no worries about this notoriety. However, it's likely that we need to worry about this one coming from the expedition. I've been paid my fee. It's difficult to say whether I've earned it. Fortunately, it's difficult for them to say whether I've earned it too. Oh, there is one quick thing I just wanted to check on my channel. There we go. I just wanted to make sure that I was actually tagged on Cultist Simulator, and I am. So, okay, Dream. I need to figure out what I want to do with that. I will go through the stag door again, but I believe we can get to the spider door now. In dreams, the silken sands are the place that whispers. Gray grains sift, gray weeds quiver. I have read the angular tracks that one must follow of the sands' arced, unseen, slow-stepping residents. I'm also mildly curious. I don't think Moth takes you to the next level, and Heart seems wrong. Okay, now I'm good. Well, if it's a spider door, it must be Edge. No, it's not. So Forge? I guess that makes sense. In dreams, the silken sands are the place that whispers. Gray sands sift, gray weeds quiver. Thirst is the only guide through the sands. My thirst or the thirst of the spider's door. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. But apparently I am just the brute force character who uses lantern to solve everything. As for the rest of you, I know Flobe had a question. By the way, I should mention Flobe is a streamer, again, I say has recently started, but of course it's been a couple of weeks of me saying that, so at some point I'm going to have to admit that they're just a streamer. But was somebody who checked out Cultist Simulator, one accidentally, and so having perfected the run on the first time they tried, culted no more, but does a lot of, I would definitely say a lot more sort of mainstream games. So it's covered Fortnite, League of Legends, does actually, is one of the things that's nice about it is that just about anybody can do a stream like that. And obviously they spend a lot of time sort of in a rather saturated page. And so it's sometimes hard to get people in. And one negative trait that some people get in that situation is they become so familiar with not necessarily having anybody visit, is they're not interactive. And so, of course, that means that people aren't necessarily going to stay around. But one of the things that's really nice about Flobe is whenever I've stopped by, even if it's not necessarily a game that's my thing, they've always been really good at sort of interacting. And I can remember in one of the League of Legends streams, even though I didn't know what was going on, there was another individual who's a bit more of a league expert, and again, it was a wonderful case of like a nicely interactive channel, even though like the number in terms of participation was low. They did a really good job of sort of carrying on the conversation, and of course they said nice things about me in the shout out. So if you do like games like that, that's definitely somebody who I can recommend, because I've had a decent enough time going in. So hey, Ego Karen, good to see you. Things are going well. How about yourself? Whisper your secrets into the earth, burn them in fire, scatter them in the sea. Still they will cling to your hair, the Tantra cautions. It provides an occult riddle that it claims is sometimes the answer to the riddle of the Hunter's Gate. So here we've got the Ecdysis parable. The Ecdysis riddle is what may be lost. Each Ecdysis parable is an attempt to answer the riddle. Okay, I think it's time for me to chow down on the wolf's head. And dedication, remembrance. This will not be an easy meal. Okay, the dread is working as intended. Oh, I probably should have paid attention to what's going on. Okay, our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I can send another follower. So We have Watchers, mortals, perhaps even ordinary mortals, but quite a number of them. They can be fought, seduced, or deceived, so we've got enough moth that I believe both of my moth characters have got 2 wounds, so we're going to live dangerously. Elizabeth, get in there. We'll try and deceive the Watchers. Next up, treacherous ground, pits and quags, and sudden tumbles. The earth here cannot be trusted. We will need strong hands or clear sight, forge or lantern. It would seem to me here that forge is the better one because the Callagine. And then we're already in Lockwood Fen, so no worries there. For me, it's kind of important to not lose those opportunities to add a follower, just because it gives you more options down the road if something unexpected happens. Alright, so we've got an acquaintance, and more mystique, always important, and it's just a hanger-on, so nothing too exciting. We've got several already, but we are still looking to fill out the ranks. There is, I think in this particular case, I'm gonna hold back. Oh, it's old, unhappy, far off thing. So what I will do instead, I'm gonna take my reputation as a mead. Oh, I'm gonna take my painting. I don't think I have any staleness. No, I do not. So I'm gonna take some notoriety. I will preserve the older mystique if I can. We'll throw a little passion in there just so we don't go stale. In this case, I'm going to get rid of the restlessness, and I'm going to convert this restlessness into fleeting reminiscence from Misnania. That's why I'm leaving the talk verb open, because anything that I want to use the talk verb for, I'm going to... Actually, I probably could have converted one of the hangers on, but... Oh, looks like we're on to the treacherous ground first. So the Madrigard is the hour of forge as well as winter. Her power might quiet the unsteady earth. We'll probably be fine. Balsine will make sure that we get through safely. We invoke the Madrigard, an hour of forge as well as winter. We'll make our own path through. Success is almost certain. At some point I might want to consider having a chat with one of my forge followers to fix the mirror, but we have time. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. We'll use the funds for now. I have a memory of how matters stood before the intercalate, ready to paint. So we have a splendid memory. Oh, this is a really nice little image. The sun was brighter once, no warmer, but its light had colors we no longer see. Paint with this memory to bring it to full awareness. I don't believe I have any graveyard mouth. We have one. Okay, I can live with that. Now, as far as study is concerned, I've got the top level of everything here, so there's not that much for me to do with study right now. At least so far as I can tell. It maybe wouldn't hurt. I suppose I can try and upgrade some of my lore. So I could try and improve the Mansus Glimpse or the Iguvine Rite. This is going to want erudition. Now I'm going to get one erudition from... let's give it a shot. I'm not sure if it's going to roll the erudition twice, but there are incantations of unseeming, where the space between worlds is as potent as the actual syllables. When a thing is opened, we will know its nature. Any lore studied with knock becomes knock. Yep. I would, of course, like the HQ with a library, but I'm not 100% sure which one gets it. Alright, half-glimpsed wistfulness has touched me, so we're going to have a chat with Miss Nania about my restlessness. A restless longing has me. I feel I want to do something. What exactly? Miss Nania's eyes are kind. The sands drain away like water, and beneath is the stone from which the gods arose so long ago. Ahead is the door, glistening like rain. Its black surface is beaded with blood, each drop heavy curved like a swollen tick. So, Spider's door is nice, but it's probably one of the more costly doors to go through. So, in my dreams I found the way to the Spider's door, sometimes called the Bloody Gate, or more informally, the Wrong Door. I think I'm just going to keep going through the stag door for now. I don't have a good reason for it other than trying to get some more secret histories. We're mud splattered and thorn scratched, but we've made it through. We've not shirked in our day's work, so good news there. Let's see what the payment looks like. Wisdom is a country, and these are its maps. My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. So, most importantly, we've preserved the mystique, which is good. I've got some contentment, which won't really be a big deal. Looks like I've actually got quite a bit more mystique than I was expecting. And it's kind of like a bad day at work as far as the return is concerned. I got 2 funds out of it. But I am going to work with the pale canvas. Auroral rose vies with electric blue. There is neither night nor morning, but only the hours of noon, anticipated and lingering noon. Hey, Tank Pig, how you doing? I saw you streaming Age of Wonders Planetfall the other day, but I did not stay as long as I was planning. I think I've been having some internet connection problems, so I got to watch you. You seemed very concentrated on what you were up to. But about half an hour in, it sort of had these like micro stutters every 5 minutes. So I really found it kind of hard to follow the plot. So, but for those of you who don't know, oh, damn it. I got the command wrong. Tank Pig, I actually only know Tank Pig through Age of Wonders Planetfall. But I will very sneakily go take a look at their videos. Oh, you played Hellblade, or as we in fine Canada land call it, Heckblade. Yeah, it's a streamer I've only just recently found due to Age of Wonders Planetfall, but somebody who does a really good job of sort of talking through their reasoning in terms of that game, which I always like. Personally, I like in strategy games because, you know, I think what makes them interesting is the thought process. I actually don't find the content which is a little bit more along the lines of here's like 50 ways you can reduce this game to a trivial exercise. I actually like to watch people sort of think through the things that they're doing. So Tank Pig may do a slightly better job of selling themselves to you. Please do feel free to take this opportunity if I've horribly misrepresented you. But I will at least tout their ability to hold a strategy stream, which is a genre near and dear to my heart. Out of curiosity, have you ever played Cultist Simulator before? I don't think I've asked you this. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I am sane if that means anything. No fascination drives your visions, it's over for now. So I'm going to do at least one seance with the Fleeting Reminiscence, and then yeah, I'll just convert one into Restlessness. I'm probably going to regret this choice, but I'm going to go looking for another follower. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. Feel free to explain. Better question to begin with. Have you ever played Fallen London or Sunless Sea or anything along those lines? Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now or send another follower. I have everything that I want for this expedition. Auroral rose vies with electric blue. There was neither light nor morning, but only the hours of noon anticipated and lingering noon. We each of us open our hearts to the golden needle of the sky, all colors magnified beneath the sun and splendor. Okay, so this is a game by Weather Factory. Weather Factory is co-founded by Alexis Kennedy, who founded Fail Better Games and was creative director on Sunless Sea, and Lottie Bevan, who was a producer at Fail Better Games. I believe her credits would include Sunless Sea Submariner, and she worked on Sunless Skies for a bit, but had moved on to basically start up the company that made this. The whole point was to make these very sort of focused, unapologetically indie-style game. So if the tone of the writing seems similar, it is because it sort of carries this creative DNA with these other games that you've enjoyed. And essentially the idea of this is it's a narrative card game. So the best I could say is you sort of play the antagonist of like a horror story. You're sitting in your office, you're looking at the desk. Obviously, card management is the most important consideration in the game, and you need to come up with a fancy alignment, otherwise people will shun you. But the thing that's really neat about this is the very first... I'm playing what's called the Medium Legacy, so this is one of the last pieces of DLC that was released for the game. But everybody begins the game with a legacy known as the Aspirant, and essentially you are someone who loses their job at a hospital. You've been given sort of this glimpse at this secret world of sort of dream and imagination that lies just beneath the skin of the everyday world. And you get a letter from one of your patients who sort of died in your care. Well, not your care. I mean, you're just kind of an assistant, hospital porter. And it describes your dreams perfectly and sort of gives you directions towards a bookshop, which sells a certain kind of book. These kinds of books. And essentially what's interesting about the game, and you'll see it in the reviews, that the things that people like me, what we love about the game are also the things that some people hate about it. Which is this game has no tutorial. Just like in life, there is no Founding Cults for Dummies book. Essentially, you're given this piece of thread to pull on, and you sort of figure out how all of these different cards are connected. Each of these little fragments of lore are a little piece of the puzzle, sort of towards this greater world in the background. And there are a number of different ways you can end. If you want, you can actually just, retire to a successful job in the bank and just give up this whole cult nonsense. Or you can go all the way and try and sort of become one of these essentially gods in the... Not exactly gods, but one of these sort of abstract entities that exist inside of the... or not so abstract, actually, in the Apostle Legacy. Is it? No, not Apostle. Yeah, no, the Apostle, the New Game Plus mode. Anyways, sorry, all my thoughts are running together. All of this is a long way of saying that it's a really unique game. The story's told through individual cards. Each of these things, if you ask, what are you? I'm my memories, I'm my health, my ability to reason, I'm my reputation, I'm the people I know, I'm my knowledge. Essentially, this game sort of reduces you down to a number of different cards and actions that you can perform on them, in this case, the verbs. And it's a wild ride with lots of room for interpretation, and it's something that I've been covering for a couple of years now, I think 2 years. And can you make them drink the Kool-Aid? There are lots of things that you can make people do in this game. There is no formal Kool-Aid per se, but you can definitely you can make them do very regrettable things that are not necessarily in their best interests. Right, this is a puzzle with missing pieces. If I find those pieces in the odd corners of scholarship. Provide erudition or use a library. Don't have a library, but I do have erudition. By the way, speaking of the secret world... Oh my god, what just happened? Behold the Mansus. So we've just gone through something called the Stag Door. If we want, we can get a subtle rupture, geometry contorts, doors burst open, snakes boil from the earth. A 10th order influence, a gathering knot of power and peril can be used in some rites to summon minions. Now, if I was interested in summoning, this would definitely be a good call, but I feel like my work verb is going to be used for a while, and I have what I need for my current expedition. I don't want to juggle too many minions, so what we will do here instead is we'll take a quick trip to the Painted River. I hope for secret histories, but I think probably erudition is coming up. Hey, this is why I need to shut up. Forbidden Epic, the attention of the hours is drawn to the bloodiest wars. Afterwards, the histories are braided like hair. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the game, as comes as a surprise to no one. It's a very unique game. Weather Factory is very fond of calling it a Marmite game. You either love it or you hate it. Their next game is actually coming to Kickstarter on September 3rd, called The Book of Hours. So if you want to check it out, if you want to get in on the ground floor, you can go to weatherfactory.biz. You can actually wishlist it on Steam right away. But it has definitely been a really fun ride, and the people behind this game are impossibly nice. I cannot say enough good things about them. One of the first things that sort of made me not exactly aware of them, because I was aware of the game ahead of time, but I thought there was a wonderful article by a journalist named Kirk McKeon, who works for VG 24/7 now, but I believe interviewed them for PC Games N. And it was just this really nice sort of account of them both as a couple, but a couple who makes video games. And it just, the nicest. I mean, these are people who, by all rights, could afford to have a bit of an ego. They've clearly been very successful at making a very difficult to sell kind of game. And they have a bit of a track record for it, although certainly Alexis Kennedy's subject of his GDC talk this year was, the failures that tend to be forgotten in that story as much as the successes. But again, just really nice people who are seem to be genuinely invested in the success of others. They have a mentorship program that they've opened up, and they've certainly been very kind to me in terms of the attention that I've gotten. They let me come on the Steam page, for instance, and sort of share this game with people. So obviously I like to sing the praises of the game because it's a really good game, but this has also been a wonderful opportunity just to sort of get to know the developers a little bit better than I'm accustomed to, and I obviously am delighted by the fact that the people behind this game are so incredibly nice. There's a great chamber in the Mansis through which a painted river flows. The vagabond, it is claimed, painted it from memory in the years before she left the house. Certainly there are histories concealed in its design. I traced them with my hand last night. There were fragments of aquamarine paint beneath my nails, flecks of gold leaf when I was done. And we're just going to go back through the stag door, because if it's the same as the continent, I believe this is. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we've got 4. Against the Watchers, a powerful deception. Look closer, closer still, closer! Keep looking, closer. Now close your eyes. So this happened because, again, the game gives you little hints in terms of what's happening. They can be fought, seduced, or deceived. Moth. I knew a man who captured moths in a bell jar. On nights like this, he would release them one by one to die in candle. Moth is the wild and perilous principle of chaos and yearning. So it doesn't necessarily lend itself towards deception, although there are other things inside the game that sort of indicate that. And in this particular case here, because we've moved ourselves up to Moth 13, we're able to attempt a deception on the Watchers. Alternatively, we have Grail. Hunger, lust, the drowning waters. The principle of Grail honors both the birth and the feast, so I'll let you guess as to which of the fight, seduce, or deceive that would be. And then, of course, there is Edge. All conquest occurs at the edge. One who dwells there is blind and cannot be wounded. Another is strong and grows stronger. Edge is the principle of battle and of struggle. And again, out of the F, Marry, Kill trilemma, I'll let you figure out which one that falls under. Sickness, I've become unwell. Okay, so the vitality... If I'm fast on the pause button, I'll be able to put this vitality towards the recovery of my health, but I need to make sure that I don't dream. I found someone who may be a kindred spirit. But I'll need to win them over. Winning over an acquaintance requires passion. Come with me. So this is, in this case, I'm blabbing about the secret mysteries, and I found someone who needs a little bit of convincing, hence my need to use my passion there. I'm also a little far in the game, so I'm making some I'm making what seem like these massive leaps of logic, but clearly the game has sort of built up some of these interactions earlier on, which makes them seem a little bit less galaxy brain than they are. You feel the same way about the Larian Studio guys. They're awesome, and you had the joy of working with them at PAX West before the game release. That's excellent. Was that Divinity Original Sin 2 or the first one? Or maybe it was Dragon Commander. That Larian game that everyone talks about, right? Auroral Rose vies with Electric Blue. There is neither night nor morning, but only the hours of noon anticipated and lingering noon. We each of us open our hearts to the golden needle of the sky, all colors magnified beneath the sun in splendor. Okay, so this is the same text that we had before. Original Sin 2. Very cool. I must go very carefully. The memories that I need to convey will take flight from the canvas if I depict them too strongly. I will find those memories in the flesh of the dead, and perhaps even, if I must, my own dying flesh. So we've got two of the components. The one we got before, the color's title, and a night blue mantis haze swims a coral palace crown. At its foredge, it absorbs the lesser names, coating them with its minerals and juices. And at the rear edge, it expels some of them, polished like jewels. The others go to feed its thorny tide heart. No one talks about the Dragon Knight games, and it makes you so sad. Are those by Larian as well? I actually have not played that many. Like, I've not played Original Sin to completion, although it's a perfectly fine game. Them in the Dungeon Siege series, number 2 especially. I didn't work on Dungeon Siege, but I did work on an Uwe Ball movie. And Dungeon Siege was definitely shooting in town at the time. Or wait, I think it was called In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale, I think is the formal title. Okay, now, unfortunately, I have got myself into a little bit of a pickle. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my closer to expiring fleeting reminiscence, and I'm going to use that in a seance right now. I have 45 seconds before this is going to finish, but I only have 44.7 seconds left on this fleeting reminiscence. So I'm actually going to paint with this to make sure that I don't lose it. One of the worst films you have ever seen. How you doing, Frater 5? I never watched it. I knew not to watch it. Now I understand. I think Uwe Ball is now a restaurateur. I believe the tax loopholes that he used to take advantage of have been closed, and so he's moved into a different industry now. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to watch the movie, so for those of you who feel that In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege story starring Jason Statham, that classic of modern cinema, filmed in scenic Vancouver, if you have just had that sitting on your shelf or on your hard drive, and you've had this grand ambition to have the pure experience of watching it unspoiled, please divert your eyes from chat for the next little while Frater 5 regales us with his tale. I'd love to hear this, Frater 5. Oh, I'm so sad that I didn't get that. Okay. An urgency of appetite. It is difficult to control oneself. A 6th-order influence, significant resonances, or correspondences. This can be used in some rites to summon minions. The Ascent of Knives is called the Sharp Stare and the Mother of Mirrors and the Feast of the Grail. If one is to look beneath the stare, as I did last night in my dreams, one understands that last name. It draws a tithe of blood from the feet of those who ascend. Empausi, some shaped like men, many shaped like women, wait beneath the glass of the stairs to satisfy their hunger. I did not approach. I made no sound. I only observed. So again, we're going to... I'll also get a little extra time with the notoriety, I suppose. But I'm going to paint to preserve the fleeting reminiscence, then we'll convert it with Misnania, and then I'm going to have the ability to generate Mystique again. Okay. I'm with you so far. Uwe Ball is a cinematic mastermind. I think I've told this story before. I think when I worked on the show, he had just released his Postal movie, which was deliberately not intended to be taken seriously. And I think he had put some effort into it, and he had the impression, which is probably correct, that people were dunking on the movie without having seen it. So while I do not find Uwe Boll a particularly sympathetic individual, the fact that he was a little sad about that, and the fact that I actually thought he was right about how unfair that was to approach criticizing one of his movies, actually I had that one moment of appreciating the humanity of a dubious filmmaker. It didn't last too long though, so. Same trick here, we're just going to extend the older Mystique as I can. I'll park the notoriety for a little while just so we don't increase our chances of being caught. And really this is so I can extend the life of the Fleeting Reminiscence long enough to convert it with Miss Nania. That actually, so, you know, the funny thing about that, Freighter 5, it's actually really funny that you mentioned that, because that is also true of a movie that a lot of people think is a really good one, which is, by the way, I'm almost certain the reason that happened would be that that actor they were probably behind on shooting, and that actor was not going to be available for any more days. And so they probably had to come up with a way of not completing all of the scenes. I mean, maybe that was as well, but it's entirely possible too that they were behind schedule and he needed to go on to his next project. Either one is entirely possible. But a funny thing about that is, so for the benefit of people who can't see chat but don't necessarily want a spoiler from the modern cinematic masterpiece that is the Dungeon Siege adaptation, one movie that people do consider to be rather good, in fact, one of the few movies that I think people think is good from a filmmaker that people love to hate, Michael Bay, The Rock has a scene like this where Sean Connery escapes Nicolas Cage, and there is this extended and admittedly very exciting chase scene. And like, there is a point where if you just kind of have an analytical mind, it's sort of like, well, obviously he gets away, because like clearly there's, you know, this is the thing about movies, like you tend to, if they commit a lot of time on something, it's like, well, clearly this is going to go ahead. But the end of the scene absolutely is Nick Cage catching Sean Connery again. And you're like, well, what was the point of that? And clearly the answer is the car chase, but... The consent of wounds. To open certain ways, one must first open oneself. This practice outlines that opening in the name of the mother of ants. I should have read the text for that. I apologize. I was too busy talking about low cinema. I don't have any other urgencies of appetite, so this will sadly... Yeah, I don't think there's anything I can do about that. I could try and get rid of my graveyard mouth, but that would require my explore verb, and I want to use my followers for that. Hey, remember that thing I said about not using my vitality? Because then I would be able to cure my... Yeah. I'll get some fresh air and exercise because there's nothing else available for the study verb. This illness has damaged my health. I need to rest before I'm fully recovered. By the way, for those of you unfamiliar with Cultist Simulator, there is one really neat thing about this game, and it's subtle. It never directly draws your attention to it, but it's a feature that I really like. Your tendency or your inclination is to sort of put up this wall between the mundane world and the and sort of the world of imagination or the world of dream, the Mansis. But the day-to-day interactions that you have, there are sort of manifestation of these principles in day-to-day life. So my character here certainly is a pretty robust individual. They are described as having a matchless physique. I move like a mountain and strike like the sky. To master others is strength. To master yourself is power. And this translates in the fact that I've got 4 health. This is my body. There are other bodies, but this one is mind, and my mind needs it as a fungus needs soil. Now, health participates in the principle of heart. The heart relentless beats to protect the skin of the world we understand. The heart is the principle that continues and perseveres. Having gotten sick, and I now have an affliction, disease has left me weak. I need rest and nourishment if I am to recover. An affliction, in addition to being ill health, participates in the aspect of winter, which is an ellipsis, and winter is the principle of silence, of endings, and those things that are not quite dead. It is also worth mentioning that disease is an ingredient in this game. Fuel, ointment, pigment, patience, all are consumed in time. I wonder, it doesn't list itself as pigment, but I wonder if I can paint, because I'm noticing here, and perhaps even if I must my own dying flesh, I wonder if I can paint with this. This will give me something to do while Miss Nania is otherwise disposed. But this is one of the neat things. It's almost this sort of Platonist view, if you want, that you've got the hours or the forms, and it's not just something that's left. If you want to understand them well, clearly you need to get these fragments. You need to read the lore and whatnot. But reason participates in Lantern. Passion is currently exhausted, so I can't give you that, but that participates in Moth. Funds doesn't have a direct link. In fact, this is, funds is one of the most mundane things. But Bronze Spintrea, the currency of the secret world, has a more powerful participation in the aspect of Forge. And so one of the things that's really neat about this game, in my opinion at least, is that you are able to invert what would seem to be negative occurrences. As the game says, even dread has its uses. And so, there are little life lessons that you can pull out of this in terms of, overcoming adversity or trying to sort of move through or sort of turn sort of a negative twist of fate towards your advantage. I just tend to find this stuff really, really fun. And I'm sure all of it is purely intentional. I'm sure it's all extremely well thought out because, of course, it just keeps coming up constantly. But it's just very rewarding to play a game like this because when you have that moment of realizing, I'm normally frustrated by this thing here, but if I were to use it in X, then you're able to, then you're sort of able to... You just feel really good that you made that discovery, and it lets you play in a slightly different way. And then, of course, more importantly, you're able to kind of come up with a little bit of a story about what happened with your character. This is one thing I commonly do. Like, I almost always, when I get my first dread, it's like, I haven't been able to make any progress on this stuff here. And, it's like when I was trying to study for, an exam, and I couldn't make any progress on it, no matter how much I tried to read, no matter how many extra books that I got. And then one day that sudden flash of inspiration came in, and now I've got Contentment. Yay! Contentment, by the way, Lantern and Heart, because of course Lantern is great with everything and must be associated with all good things. Alright. There's that moth I was talking about. So more Mystique, always good news, and oops, let's bring those back in. And we have yet another hanger-on. So normally I'd want to try and bring some more people into the cult, but right now I'm going to try and preserve my fleeting reminiscence. We'll keep going with the painting. I'm just going to leave the talk verb open. So chuck a little money towards the colors of the night. Oh, here's what I can do. I'll have maybe not Poppy, but let's have a chat with Dr. Redeem. We'll see if he wants a commission done. I should at least be able to make the most of the time with, with getting some extra jobs to do. Here's what he needs. A commission on the secret histories. Dr. Ibn al-Adim, called the Alapine, has offered you a commission. He's looking for particularly obscure information on the secret histories of the world. You will need to find a matching lore fragment of at least level 6 to complete this commission. Madame Bichet, she's seeking pieces for the notorious Karashim Review. Madame Olympe Bichet is seeking suitable articles for this Karashim Review. She wants a substantially enigmatic piece on Moth. And finally... Oh, you know what? We'll probably finish before any of this, so I'm going to hold off on the next step. I feel like I'm going to wind up getting Fascination here, but let's go for it. Yep. Light leaks through the cracks. My mind is brighter than it ever was. The higher I rise, the more I see. So we've got Moth here. I dreamt of the mansis behind the white door, of a great space above the orchard, the space that overlooks the bounds, the space where the vagabond once painted her river. Painted ships passed upon the painted river. I met the painted eyes of a painted captain. She saluted, and the motion was like the layered movement of clouds. The sail of the ship was amber, and the captain's eyes the green of new barley, and the river aquamarine. Now that I'm awake, I see those colors still. Okay, so 15 seconds, then I'll clean up the affliction, and then once the painting is done, we'll have a chat with Miss Nania about my words. Sorry, there's fireworks going on, and it sounds like artillery. I'm gonna have a chat about the fleeting reminiscence. Actually, first thing I should do, okay, Season of Suspicion. So this Fascination might become a liability, but I think I'm gonna risk it and do the convert the fleeting reminiscence into a restlessness. Alright, here on the flat rock, inches above the marsh water, is a throne carved of yew wood, ripe with fungus, ornamented with tarnished copper. This is the shrine we seek. Apple green paint marks ritual circles on the rock. The remains of sacrifices, past squelch beneath our feet as we search the shrine. In a little hollow in the throne rests an oiled bundle of treasures. So, good work, Valsine. We've got notoriety. Yzabet did not die, so it's a good day. The Caligine is still around. The Percussigant is still around. And we have the Flayed Tantra. This Tantra is recorded as being spoken by an enigmatic individual identified as Peel, with many of the qualities of the mythological Naga. The Flayed Tantra played a notable part in Alexander Sparrow's paranoid pamphleteering. You've got the Winged Doll. In an attic above a skeleton house, there was a window. Beside the window, there was a box. In the box, there was a bandage. In the bandage was a twist of clotted hair. In the hair was wound a doll, because the window had never been opened. So, a Moth 4 item. Another vital pigment. And an icon of St. Agnes. St. Agnes of Bohemia was renowned for her pious dedication to the mortification of the flesh. This icon makes for grisly viewing. So, Knock 4. If you notice, so we've got Enid and Neville, currently 2 and 5 Knock. So in this particular case here, the icon of St. Agnes gives me a little flexibility in terms of my, basically in terms of my ability to summon things. I basically don't need to lock up the follower spot with one of my Knock followers anymore. I usually tend to find this is particularly helpful with whenever I get a certain influence, but the drawback, of course, is that I need to have a very high level of Knock if I want to bring in the really powerful ones. So it's not sort of a catch-all solution. All right, let's head straight to Gladwin Lake. Obviously, this is going to generate a lot of notoriety for me, but there's no point. Like, again, the existence of the Suppression Bureau is to stop people like me from going in and ransacking locations. So, you know, unless I want the Suppression Bureau to win, I'm just going to have to accept that every once in a while they're going to get some evidence on me. I don't want to carelessly create a situation where that happens, but, you know, in this case here, there's no point in letting some good summons go to waste. So, to Gladwin Lake we go. Gladwin Lake, beneath the stark slopes of the fells, the mist-wreathed surface of the lake waits. There's a twin altar here before the Romans came, and a legend of a serpent who was sent to defile that altar. So we don't quite have the knock that we need to take on that serpent right away, but we'll see if we can make it happen. Beneath the surface of the lake, or in some cliffside nook perhaps, some relics remain for us yet. My recent work is considered significant. I may yet earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. So let's just take that fleeting reminiscence right away. Miss Nanya's eyes are thoughtful. So there's some glimmering if I want to level up that... If I want to level up my... one of the types of lore that requires it, now would be a good time, but I'm not entirely sure that will work. I am getting a bit light on things to distract the Suppression Bureau with, and we wound up with 2 funds for the trouble. We're still not stale though, so I suppose that's good news. And I think, oh, that's right. So I'm gonna try painting with an affliction. Okay, so that didn't work. So the question is, now that I've done the 4 passion painting, do I try for something I'm not supposed to? Yeah, let's give it a shot. I've never actually tried with a low-level lore. So those who know will understand, as will the Suppression Bureau. So this is going to generate more notoriety for me, which is not exactly the healthiest of choices that I can make, but I want to try an experiment here. All I need now is time. Okay, for study, let's translate the Flayed Tantra. And a Season of Ambitions is going to come up, so that's going to get me Graveyard Mouth. That won't get me Restlessness, though. Alright. I think this means nothing special is going to happen, but you never know. Miss Nanya acknowledges that all will pass, even memory, but that memory can be passed like a torch or a treasure. So of course now I've committed myself to a longer duration than I had intended. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I can send another follower. The Mother of Ants was born among serpents. She has so very many younger sisters. It can be defeated in battle, or it will respond to the Mother's power. Now, unfortunately, we are short on the Mother's power. So what we will do is we will bring in Trusty Rose with her 5 edge. Rose has a sharpened her cunning to a concentrated point. All that I am is here. So it looks like we'll get some notoriety for our trouble, and that's it. And Jennings would like a commission on heart. The Count will pay for information of interest. This time he'd like substantial research on the corporal mysteries of the heart. Now, if I feel like getting rid of the fascination, one thing I could try and do would be to recruit one of these hangers-on and then putting the fascination in as an ingredient. But I don't actually have anything that's really threatening me with the fascination yet. So in this case, I think I'm just going to roll the dice and talk about a Forgotten Chronicle. Okay, we continue to get lucky with the draws. finished. Oh, looks I've made something unique, something extraordinary, something I will never dare to exhibit publicly. Eyes like gas lamps, scales like black jade. A serpent is a powerful foe, but it's nothing before us. So, we found the snake. We'll see whether or not Rose and the Percussagant combo can take it on. Okay, so my restlessness is down to less than half. But I did learn a rather important lesson here, though, which is that I actually do not need that strong of a... I don't need that strong of a piece of lore to be able to create the special painting. I feel like they need a special place on the desk, seeing as we are the medium, so... Yet another notoriety. We've got an urgency of appetite. That's level 6. Ooh. I think we need to get the heart followers on this. Obviously, my passion's going to be out for a bit. And we have the Red Grail. She did not split the sun, but here we might imagine how she must have desired it. So... Okay, let's start getting some mystique. I might want to do something with the urgency of appetite, but I don't think the things I can summon with... Great. Well, no, there's one summoning I can do. I prepared the text for study. This tantra is recorded as being spoken by an enigmatic individual identified as Peel, with many of the qualities of the mythological Naga. The flayed tantra played a notable part in Alexander Sparrow's paranoid pamphleteering, so the translated version's the same as the basic. We'll read this right away. Peel was numbered among the great hooded princes, but it breaks with its brethren and followed the Thunderskin in the endless dance. Sick room grows close and stale. It's time to get up. So, Season of Despair is coming up next. I want to be careful with my restlessness. Let's go back through the stag door. I'm not ready to kill anyone yet. If we defy the odds and don't have a notoriety picked up, obviously I'm going to have to set aside the talk verbs for my heart followers to do a charm offensive, but I think it's almost certain that we're gonna get caught here. The serpent rolls and roars, its death throes shake the earth, but it's dying, and we will pass. I've been paid my fee. It's difficult to say whether I've earned it. Fortunately, it's difficult for them to say whether I've earned it too. All right. Now, normally I would want to, so I was thinking that maybe a raw prophet might be a good summon here, but of course I have 2 reasons for not doing this. One, clearly the summoning is going to take longer than I have for the restlessness, and I'm not going to have Miss Nania to turn this into a fleeting reminiscence. And of course we've got the Season of Despair coming up, so this will definitely be dread. Now, yes, I can deal with the dread. Contentment is not that hard to get, but I think it's better for me just to carry on with what I've got so far. It's not the first time we've thrown away an urgency of appetite. We just did that, and I've been able to live without a raw prophet this far, so. Okay, everyone hold your breath. Okay, the notoriety. But at least we'll be getting rid of one of these. The taste, the particular taste, the taste which is neither fair nor foul, comes to trouble my mouth again. My tongue will swell, my lips will blacken. The elixir has set its spores within me, and only dead flesh can quell them. So we've now got level 2 Graveyard Mouth. We do not want that to get to 7, I believe the game says. Correct. And we will carry on with what we have. All right, still the same message. So we'll get a little money at the end of this. You know what? I might still be on the right track about my decaying flesh. I might need to paint decrepitude. I'm ready to improve. Don't really need it right now, but the painted river runs from a great chamber near the white door, far through the mantis, to its far edge where it enters a painted delta of far cloud. I voyaged half its length last night with a stern-faced captain beneath a rust-red sail. As the clouds rose before us, the sailors raised a yearning shanty and close-hauled the sails to best use the painted wind, and all the while the captain and I discoursed of the secrets of the House of the Sun. I don't think there's anything else I want to do with Dream right now, so let's keep going through the door. Keep generating that mystique, although it's obviously less important to me now. And once Peel had peeled itself, it had the ink it needed to write the Tantra. It had to face the wrath of its fellows. Here is the invocation it used to fend them off. The Geminate Invocation, the Sisterin Witch, has always been invoked for protection at crossroads and at moonrise, where the land shelters the sea. Use this in a rite with a Byzantine tinct and a meteoric bullet, or other resources of equal power, to summon a percussagant. So we're actually doing rather well for our heart lore. Wouldn't have expected that, but we don't judge. Okay, I don't have anything to study right now, although we might be getting some at the end of this expedition. So let's take a minute and see. This would require glimmering, so I think we might as well go for the upgrading the Megalesian incantation, just because we've got the glimmering for it right now. We don't have anything else to do with the study verb, so. Certain words beg to be spoken. It is tempting to spend time in their consideration. Tempting, and perhaps useful. There are ruins beneath the water, just beneath, at wading depth. The lake has risen a little in all these the lake has risen a little in all these years, but not enough to keep us out. Okay, again, no point. I might be tempted to do some of the commissions at some point, but right now I need to keep on the treadmill for money. And Violet. Violet has always given unstintingly of her time, easing the pain of the dying. This is someone I do want to bring into the cult, but let's see. I'm just trying to think if there's any other characters I need to bring in. There might actually only be 2 winter. We'll see. It doesn't really hurt to carry on like this. So the chapel crypt is flooded, the water's soupy with old corpse matter, but at least we bring up a wax-sealed coffer. 18th century? No, older than that. Let's see what's in. See what's within. Okay, that was the spare money. I would normally leave the Callagine out to deal with any evidence that pops up, but it's going to be a minute and 3/4 before we get the talk verb again, so. We've got a few things to work with now. So we've got the Orchid Transfigurations Volume 3, 16th century alchemical fever dream attributed to Robert Flood, frequently banned for the disturbing allure of its illustrations. This is in the original Latin. So Latin text, we've got witch-kissed oil. The formula remains unchanged since the days Hecate was worshipped at the crossroads. The crossways. Now this is not a pigment, this is a tool. I'm going to make a 3rd column for this now. Okay, it is shock and awe outside at this point. Those indignities perpetrated by the deceitful fraternity of obliviates. This book is as famous for the near incoherent fury of its tone as for the knowledge it contains, in Latin. So these are things that we can translate, but obviously we'll get our upgrading finished first. And we are moving on to the Hebe Stanton, a battered but surprisingly plush steamer used by occult actors fleeing scandal, by shy millionaires, by occult scholars who feel safer when moving water is under them, and just once by the Ligeia Club, who chartered the whole ship for the use of 7 cabins. Okay, so as is usual, Percussagant Callagine are moving ahead because they're the ones that expire. And it is rare for passenger vessels to visit the grim island where the Hebe Stanton is docking, but we can charter a fishing boat and trust the sea behaves. The real work of passing guards and doors will begin when we get on board. If we get on board. So this sounds like something where I would need better knock followers, but anything that knock can deal with, it's also likely that Forge can deal with as well. Sorry to smack the windscreen with the cup. The wolf despair prowls elsewhere. No. Attention. Okay. Always happy for more forbidden epics. There is a great chamber in the mansis through which the painted river flows. The vagabond, it is claimed, painted it from memory in the years before she left the house. Certainly there are histories concealed in its design. I traced them with my hand last night, where fragments of aquamarine paint... there were fragments of aquamarine paint beneath my nails, flecks of gold leaf when I was done. Okay. Again, I need to be a little more inventive in terms of what I do with the stag door, but at this point, it really doesn't hurt for me to be getting all these extra forbidden epics. I think what I'm going to wind up doing here, I'm going to eventually paint away my restlessness, but for the time being, I think it's better for me to continue the medium job and get a little more time on the talk. There's a puzzle with missing pieces. I might choose those pieces in the odd corners of scholarship. Provide glimmering or use a sanctuary. And if we need to do a second one, we'll have a spare glimmering to work with. I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. So hunters found evidence, real or imagined, of my sins. Hunters with evidence of occult activities become more dangerous. Evidence may survive the death of the hunter who created it. And of course, we've got a season of suspicion coming up next. So this is actually going to be a pretty precarious situation I find myself in. I can risk Yzabet or Porter. But it's possible that one of them dies as a result. Okay, we've got the warded door. An engineer or an adept has ensured that this door will not open easily. Forge or knock will defeat it. Obviously, the Callagine brings Forge. Watchers, mortals, perhaps even ordinary mortals, but quite a number of them. They can be fought, seduced, or deceived. Moth might help here, and the Western Sea. Most of these islands are well known to the histories, but our destination lies in the wild, uncharted reaches. We will need heart or forge to survive. So Valsine is our Mrs. Fix-It. We'll add a funds on the next sort of turnover, and then I'll add Moth to deal with the Watchers. Okay. So my inclination was to paint with the restlessness, but I think in this case here, keeping the notoriety alive and ticking down is a slightly safer option in the current circumstance. So we're just going to carry on with our restlessness for now. I will have glimmering, which probably won't do much. A little more mystique than I thought, just because I've been a little careless in terms of my layout, but our forge skills represent plenty of expertise. We'll almost certainly make it through. Okay, we knew that was coming. I should have gone... I kind of suspected that it was the Fascination Winter one, but for some reason I automatically clicked for the Painted River. The winter influence would have been helpful because I would have been able to upgrade followers with that. Anyways, light leaks through the cracks. My mind is brighter than it ever was. The higher I rise, the more I see. If I need to do something with fleeting reminiscence, I can do that now. I dreamt of the mansis behind the white door, of the great space above the orchard, the space that overlooks the bounds, the space where the vagabond once painted a river. Painted ships passed upon the painted river. I met the painted eyes of a painted captain. She saluted, and the motion was like the layered movement of clouds. The sail of the ship was amber, and the captain's eyes the green of new barley, and the river aquamarine. Now that I'm awake, I see those colors still. Okay, Season of Dread is coming up next, so I don't have much to fear from that. My ideal solution would have been to convert this into restlessness, and to paint away the restlessness. But what I might do is I might wait for Miss Nania to become available, continue to do the medium job with the restlessness until I can convert this to restlessness, then take that restlessness, convert it to a fleeting reminiscence, and get rid of the fascination that way. It sounds long and complicated, but we can probably get this done within like a minute and a half. I mostly just want to avoid a situation where I have a 15-second restlessness sitting on the table. Okay, so we're safe from... Oh no, we're not safe from this notoriety. This is still a ticking time bomb. And then of course we'll get a notoriety for safe across this, or the Hebe Stanton, but I have a feeling the detective's going to take care of the case before that. So I've increased my mastery of the succulent lore, which we call by its aspect Grail. We've got the delightful sacrament, so pleasant upon the ear, one could listen over and over, but these are the words that make sacrifice sweet. Use this with the Byzantine tinct and moth influence, or other resources of equal power to summon a raw prophet. I think if I summoned a raw prophet, they would be cleaning up the evidence right now. Okay, we will translate the orchid transfigurations. Okay, I'm just taking a minute to reason through... Okay, so I continue to paint with this restlessness until Miss Nania becomes open, having converted this to restlessness. There's going to be a 1.5 second gap, but I can live with that. I really should be doing it in the reverse order here. That way I don't need to rearrange everything each time. Sylvia, how could I have forgotten you? I believe Sylvia is Moth. Sylvia lost her eye in the woods when she was 9 years old. Every year at Candlemas, she returns to the place she buried it. Okay. So, step number 1, Miss Nania and the fleeting reminiscence. Miss Nania's eyes are thoughtful. So, in 30 seconds, we'll get a restlessness to replace this one. Okay, good news. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. In this case, use a bet. I like playing with your life. I keep forgetting we've got all this lovely mystique that I keep generating and ignoring. Okay, Course of the Heart. I'm running out of space for everything. We're leaving this out in the open for reasons that will be apparent. Okay, fresh restlessness to do my work with. Now we have a chat with the painting. By the way, Miss Nania is a painting of a dark-skinned woman with snow-colored eyes and close-cropped ivory-colored hair. She stands before a small marble tomb overgrown with much star jasmine. The painting is signed Jonas B. Munk, 1811. Hey, Sungif, sorry if I missed your message a little bit earlier. I was utterly engrossed by the game, as is appropriate with the fascination on the table, of course. How are you doing this evening? And thank you for stopping by. So again, just waiting on the dream for fleeting reminiscence to get rid of the fascination. Look closer, closer still. Closer! Keep looking, closer. Now close your eyes. So we're good to go. It's possible that we will not pass the warded door with Forge, but there's nothing that we can do to... There's basically nothing that we can do to improve our chances of it. So we will translate those indignities perpetrated by the deceitful fraternity of Obliviates. I'll read the text for Robert Flood when I read it, when I actually study it. More Mystique. And here we go. So in this particular case, I'm going to send Porter off to destroy the evidence. It might generate notoriety, and if the notoriety gets picked up in 0.3 seconds, this will be snatched away before he can do anything about it. But okay, good. Now again, there's the possibility that he fails, and that just makes for bad things. But we are down 2 notoriety. We'll be up 1 when we finish robbing the Hebe Stanton, and the sooner I can get rid of this potential threat, the better, obviously. There's another fleeting reminiscence. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with this yet. Clearly, I don't want to... these are usually good to just do a one-off, like a one-off seance with. But the problem is if I do that with my restlessness is going to tick down for 30 seconds, and I'm going to earn the exact same thing I would do if I used it. So it's wasteful with a fleeting reminiscence, but it's better than the alternative, in my opinion. All right. Let's read Orchid Transfigurations, Volume 3, Noon, and this is just because I really like reading this book. And I will do my best not to stumble over reading it this time, because I always get a little too ahead of myself on that one. Okay. The Orchid Transfigurations, Volume 3, Noon, the 3rd volume of a compilation of quasi-Rosicrucian allegories, supposedly by Robert Flood. This is a later English translation. A long dialogue between the Mountain Mother and the Vigilant Storm describes the ways in which both mountains and storms end, and the protections they use against those ends. Alright, moving right along. Let's go back through the Stag Door and see if we can get ourselves some more Forbidden Epics, or some Winter Influence to upgrade people. My minion is returned and the evidence has been destroyed. I am a little safer. That is lovely news. So, what else do I want to do? I actually have a little bit of free time with my verbs. I think what I should probably be focusing on right now is bringing in some of the named characters into the cult. So let's have a chat. Children of Silence, Violet. Violet has always given unstintingly of her time, easing the pain of the dying. And we will employ the white ceremony. This one is ready. We're not quite out of the woods with this notoriety, but I'm feeling a little bit more confident with what we've got. Okay, I think I am going to try turning this into decrepitude. So, as before, more of the same. Just milk this restlessness for all that it's worth, although I am going to need to... I'm going to need to find a way to turn this into something else. will speak only and exactly 9 words. The novice will speak none at all. So, Violet likes to paint. She has a gift, though she's always been very modest about it. She never puts human figures in her paintings. There are enough people in the world. Okay, let's bring Sylvia in now. So it's a little higher priority to me to get these people in right away. So notice I've been like ignoring the hangers-on for a long time. This is just because they don't necessarily add a whole lot. The people like Sylvia do add quite a bit. So the level of their aspect is higher, and they require a little bit less investment in order to achieve something that's useful on an expedition. So. Okay, happy that we didn't get hit by the... I'm gonna do the painted river. All right. That one's a bit of a wash, really. I didn't need either influence or the erudition. But we must use the knife, said the lion-throned one, the noose, the flame, the waking world against those who have passed the 3-valve door, and so none may pass. That is our law and the law of the sun. I want to just read that again. So, but we must use the knife, said the lion-throned one, the noose and the flame, the waking word against those who have passed the 3-valved door, and so none may pass. That is our law and the law of the sun. I believe that is Gerby that they're referring to. And Gerby's not directly observable at the moment. Oh, hang on. I've got the stag door. So, in my dreams, I found my way to the stag door, sometimes called the horn gate or the adept's door. I've answered the riddle. Wait, here we go. The stag door is the adept's gate. To pass through it is to be initiated into the first true mystery, the house of the sun. The head Gerby weeps to see me enter where it cannot, but it must let me pass, and the scarred valves of the door grind open. Okay, so... reference to valves, but it is not necessarily the same thing. And we are notoriety free. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to be trying to paint with decrepitude. So I'm going to take advantage of this fleeting reminiscence. Next up, those indignities perpetuated by the deceitful fraternity of obliviates. It is not clear whether C.R.O.D., who is identifiable only by his initials, was in fact an initiate of the Obliviate Order of Immortal Adepts. He wrote in the 16th century, after the order, if he is to be believed, had passed the height of its power. I also need to figure out what the initial C.R.O.D. might stand for. 58! That they did claim inheritance of the traditions for of the House of Leith, but that they have disregarded both its most sacred and most beautiful ceremonies where they are not found convenient. 59! All doors must open, as all lives must end. This door has found its end here today. Okay, Sylvia. Sylvia has detailed knowledge of roof ridges, of the river at low tide, of Irish whiskey, and of conjuring tricks. I actually... No, it was a reference to her lost eye. I did read the text before. Okay, I'm not quite ready to use Miss Nania yet. Hey, Karosh, how are you doing? Your name looks slightly different than last time, but it might just be the random colors that get assigned. I'm just taking a minute here to think. So, if I'm going to try and paint with the... if I'm going to try and paint with decrepitude... I'm gonna need more time. So in this particular case, I'm going to... So again, this locks me up for 2 minutes. But yeah, the affliction takes 3 minutes, so that was the right call. And we're getting our 3rd graveyard mouth. So I may need to stop the expeditions, but I also think I'll maybe try and risk it a little bit. My own heart pumps more strongly today. So if I was inclined, I could of course cure this affliction, but in this particular case I'm not going to, because I have a hunch about something that I need for the Palest painting. Getting ready for another trip to Norway, so you must adjust to wake up quicker. So kinda good. And you. I do not envy having to adjust sleeping patterns. I've always found that incredibly difficult, and we live in a world where punctuality is really highly rated for a reason that I don't quite understand. But yeah, I am doing very well. A cozy nest. There are few passengers on board. No wonder if this cheerless, icy isle was the ship's destination. But there's at least one passenger, someone who had protected their cabin door with more than physical locks. They must have gone ashore. They might return at any moment. This time I'm going to try the Ascent of Knives. Damn it! The Ascent of Knives is called the Sharp Stare, and the Mother of Mirrors, and the Feast of the Grail. If one is to look beneath the stare, as I did last night in my dreams, one understands the last name. It draws a tithe of blood from the feet of those who ascend. Empausi, some shaped like men, many shaped like women, wait beneath the glass of the stairs to satisfy their hunger. I did not approach, I made no sound, I only observed. More stag door. Now I share the right that the Order used to summon the Caligine spirit. In clear defiance of the Lethean tradition, they did not offer Knocklore with a winter initiate, but rather a Malleus imperative. But rather winter lore with a knock initiate and the Malleus. It is not to be born. We actually already have everything this book has to offer, but how can one turn down an opportunity here? Such an angry man. This is also not bad because I'm going to be able to double up the winter lore. What am I going to need here, though? I will need erudition or an HQ with a library. And I will need dread, the silent intensity sky. I have that. Okay. It's... You know what? This is worth it. I know I'm going to be getting books in like 2 seconds, but... I have the erudition now, so I'll take advantage of it. We empty the luggage, upend the books, and shake them, turn pictures to check the backs. We find clothes, tickets, maps, nothing out of the ordinary, although there is a curious translucent material like a sheet of snakeskin draped over a chair back. At last, when we slash the mattress to search its stuffing, we find a little collection of ivory scroll cases. The Leonine Tantra. I think I'm going to just wait until I translate them to read these. The Ceaseless Tantra, the Incandescent Tantra, and the Fire Circle Tantra. Now, an important question. Do I want to try and get rid of the graveyard mouth now, or do I want to wait until I'm at level 5, I believe? No, I'm already at level 3. Okay. In this case, we're going to go for Crocus Hill, just again for the simple reason that I have a Caligine and a Pergusagant, so now is a good time for me to get some expeditions done. The ancient tribes reserved this resting place for one who, by the end, in service to a certain merciless hour, was more scar than man. They sealed the entrance with binding songs and mortared blood. The one who came here before us had marked the door in the hillside, and here it may yet be, but it is sealed besides with stone and binding spell. You can just bear with me a quick second here, guys. I need to just adjust something real quick. Okay. At some point, I'm going to be getting a case of mistaken identity. Of course, I haven't really come up with what the next plan is when I do start, when I do have my talk verb available. And obviously, the only way that I'm going to be able to get more of the paints for a pale canvas will be through doing expeditions. So, okay, it looks like in this case it's just a warded door. I think I react this way every single time, and it's still surprising. But yes, okay, Valcine is on the case. "87 seconds before we get rid of our health. We had too much of it anyway." The really sad thing is going to be if the... Oh, that's a shame. The really sad thing is going to be if it turns out that the decrepitude is not actually part of the painting. I really wanted that bitter atmosphere. This is the Yearning Shanty one, and as much as I like reading it, I am going to try and make some progress. Alright, this is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in odd corners of scholarship. Provide erudition or use a library. Okay, so we're going to get glimmering from that event. What are you doing over there? Course of the Heart comes from the Restlessness. Those of you... So if this doesn't see... Essentially, it's been the same story for each of these. Restlessness has Heart aspect, Grail aspect, Forge aspect, Lantern, and Moth. Now, you can't study it, and the game will tell you why if it's not obvious. But it does have this interesting side effect, which is when you do actions with Heart, there is a chance that you get the Course of the Heart, which gives you vitality. When you use Grail, there is a chance that, again, the principle of Grail, you get the glimmering from that. That would be the place behind desire. I don't believe there is one related to Forge. I could be wrong on that, but if there is one, it escapes me. Lantern is the one that gives you the erudition, and then of course Moth is old, unhappy, far off things. But essentially what this does, each time you use Restlessness, you are increasing the chance that one of these events triggers. In my view, most of the time it's beneficial. Obviously, old, unhappy, far off things can sort of creep up on you. But you'll also notice sometimes when if I've been trying to get rid of fascination, let's say, I do have a tendency to start using a lot of Moth followers for things. And that's basically me trying to maximize the number of times that I can generate a dread. And, one way you can generate dread without talking with a rival and talking with a hunter and potentially turning them into a rival is basically letting an old unhappy far off things tick down to 0 and turn into dread. Obviously, that trick is not available to you as readily as the medium. In fact, it seems that one of the tricks about the medium is that it's a little bit easier to fall to fascination because you can't rely on restlessness generating dread for you. Restlessness now increases your graveyard mouth, which just puts you even deeper in the hole. So dread can be precious, although of course now with Fleeting Reminiscence, obviously Fleeting Reminiscence has always been a way of dealing with fascination in the ghoul, but obviously since Fleeting Reminiscence is now a way that you can get rid of fascination, it's a little less severe than it used to be, but generally dread is much more precious for the ghoul. I suppose that's also sort of the purpose of Misnania, which is being able to sort of convert some of these things on the spot. What do you use as my main way of getting food? You tried to use detectives, but it ended poorly. I don't really go after hunters all that often, so I usually just dig up bodies in the graveyard and eat those. But clearly here it makes more sense for me to wait until the season of suspicion is passed by, for the simple reason that, the corpse is already going to be discovered now, but generally I try and time things properly, and I'm using my study verb for something else. So in this particular case, I'm at a point where I want to start getting rid of the graveyard mouth, but I'm not at the point where it's like all hands on deck. So, okay, I don't think I have any more mentors to bring in. We do have the case of mistaken identity. Got an extra mystique, which isn't as important right now, and a forgotten chronicle. Now, if you'll excuse me, I neglected to go to the bathroom before the stream. The force is with me, so I am going to leave you with my professionally done away screen, but I will take a minute here and say, better still, I'm not just going to lead you to this itch page. Here's a specific game. This is Sean's this is not just Sean's itch page. This is a specific game on that itch page. And so I'm not going to be gone for too long, but there is something to amuse you with if you do not find my professional BRB screen away. This is Sean LeBlanc who stops by, and I'm not going to say I've learned not to call out lurkers, but this is someone who I've shouted out in the past, and now you have no excuse. If you've been sitting on this, waiting to try, now is your chance. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to put up the BRB sign. This is absolutely not properly aligned. Damn it. Okay, it's too late. I will see you all in a couple minutes. Not a couple minutes, a couple seconds. See you in a bit. All right, I did not fall in. Everything's good. I didn't refill my water though. That would have been smarter for me to do. I hope you enjoyed that game. If you didn't, shame on you. What else am I up to? Oh yes, turning off the sign. Actually, before I turn off the sign, I have no idea on how to center this. You know what? This is not something I can. This will be something I can do at another time. You found so many good games that you need to try out, but so you can't try anything else. It's a really short game. I would recommend it. I mean, it's played in a browser. You don't need to download it, but obviously I can't force anyone to play anything. But it's worth it. It's a local developer who continues to impress, surprise, and delight with their contributions. Okay, so now I got to think a little bit about what I want to use the talk verb for. So again, my affliction is ticking down for a minute. I will want... Yeah, actually now is a really good time for me to take advantage of this free spot. So let's turn the believers into disciples first. Ah, that's right. I don't have the influence for that yet. Oh, but what I can do is use the Elgabaline manacles. I don't believe I lose them. If I do lose them, I'm going to be very upset, but... Aratus, Nowhere Prophet, Dicey Dungeons, so many AAA games too. Yeah, well, I mean, the AAA games are in this really unfortunate situation as they take a very long time to play, which is fine. But we still tend to buy them like we do when we did when we didn't have huge stacks of games to play. So they tend to get a little. That game doesn't seem to work on Android. Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, I've played it on my or that one I haven't played on my phone actually. So this is something like Enlightenment. Okay, we'll leave Glimmering to the side. I've got my Course of the Heart, not that I'm going to use it. Season of Visions is ticking by. We've got another Course of the Heart. Pick up my Restlessness. Continue to generate money and mystique. And yes, okay. Sorry, I just lost another thing that I had open in the other window. Where are you? Oh, you're kidding me. Okay, cool. So at some point, I'm going to want to... I screwed that up. I'm going to try the Ascent of Knives this time. Okay, well, we dodged the Fascination, which is good. I'm going to... I'm going to have to send off one of my moth followers to deal with the evidence. Of the place my dreams took me last night, this has been written. The ascent is glass, the walls are knives, each step is blood. I did not climb far, the pain was too great. When I woke, that pain remained with me, a pain that I could employ to occult purposes if I hurry. Okay. I feel like I'd like to do something with the edge... But it's just another one of these questions in terms of I don't think I'm going to be able to work with it in time. Although I am still going to want to go through the stag door. Right, so I believe on this one we wanted the silent intensity. Yeah, well, the decrepitude's going to be coming. Like, that's by intention, so... Alright, now you shed your blood as the sun's blood was shed. Now your past is divided from your future as the wolf was divided. You are not born, your service ends only in dissolution. Arise in silence. Sylvia's favorite tactic is to smile and close her eye. It is remarkable how often her interlocutor will blurt out exactly what they are thinking. Okay, so I should have actually kept this in mind. I've actually been able to upgrade people for a lot longer than I've been taking advantage of. So Miss Nania is going to convert my restlessness to a fleeting reminiscence. Now we're going to see whether or not I gave myself decrepitude. Some wounds never quite heal. Untreated injuries and hunger become decrepitude, which does not return to health. Decrepitude remains until you die. Now, this is not a memory, but this is a remnant. So I'm going to wait for the grim lessons to finish, and we will see what happens when I nibble on myself. We call that the Steve Bannon trick. Okay, what do I want to do with my work verb, knowing that I'm not able to paint right away? Let's just do... I could paint and work... Well, you know what? Why not? Let's just run with the reputation and see how much money I can get. And I will paint. Oh, you know what? I could have done commissions. That would have made a little more sense. And I also have a fleeting reminiscence, which I could have used if I had looked at it properly. You're out. Thanks for the stream. Have a good one. Bye, System Chalk. Bye, chat. Thank you very much, Ego Karen, as always. I hope this was worth worth the time that you were here. We will see you next time. Still not sure what I'm doing Monday, but I will. I have an outside idea in terms of what I want to try. Okay, so the Weary Detective did not successfully form evidence against me. I didn't lose the notoriety, but we don't need to worry about sending someone to destroy the evidence, so it's a bit of a wash. Season of Ambitions is coming up in 42 seconds, so there it is. Is that it? You have resolved a grim challenge. So it's not clear to me whether or not I'm going to lose the dedication remembrance. She understands my restlessness. She has known it herself now and then. She reminds me that nothing endures. Oops. Okay. So, just a sort of reiteration of where we are. I'll have 2 fleeting reminiscence, so I will do 1 round with the reputation as a medium. I will go back through the stag door. And I have a free talk verb available now, so if I want to do some upgrades, now is the time. Alternatively... what? Well, I can induct these people in. That's not as exciting. I can try and get a body to feed to the spider's door. Yeah, out of all of my options, I think upgrading my disciples is the best bet. Or sorry, upgrading my believers to disciples. So let's start with Violet. Violet likes to paint. She has a gift, though she's always been very modest about it. She never puts human figures in her paintings. There are enough people in the world. Didn't I have an operation of the declining sun? Did that just eat that lore? Hang on. I want to check the tape. I hate checking this on stream, but let's see if I can find it. I'll give myself some extra view stats too. Okay, I'm just trying to get to the bit where I get my upgraded follower. Interesting. So you do... It looks like if you use the... Oh no, what am I saying? This is where the operation of the declining sun is, because I'm an idiot. Sorry about that. I do not deserve to to be in the driver's seat of this game anymore. Oop, I'm going to close down salvage duty as much as I like it. Okay, so... I think we should be able to get some upgrades. I mean, the manacles are a reasonably powerful winter artifact, so I'd be surprised if I'm not able to upgrade the existing people. For now, Violet, we will bring her up to the next level. What am I doing? Children to silence. Also, there's got to be a way that I can convert. There is apparently a special ghoul-oriented winter cult. And it's just not obvious to me how you convert it. Mind you, I haven't looked very hard, but I kind of want it now that I know that it's in. Alright, my follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. Violet likes to paint. She has the gift. Oh yeah, we already read all that, so... Which job do I have? I'm currently acting as the medium. In this case, I'm currently painting, if I'm completely honest, but... the standard job is that of the medium. Okay, one more treasure. The others who came here all overlooked the secrets locked within the warrior king's corpse. I will not make the same mistake. It is almost possible to stand upright in this place, but the air is foul and our lamps burn low. Here is the warrior king staked out on a funeral stone, his bones smashed to keep him from walking. The orbits of his skull are bound with bronze. Others have been here before us. Power still lingers, and no doubt they used it in their ceremonies. They have taken some of the warrior king's funeral treasures, but left something of their own. Okay, so we've got an icy atmosphere. If I want to use that in the upgrade, I can as well. Obviously notoriety because life is unfair. Pergusagant and Callagine. And we've got a bone flute. Its sound will cease. More Grey Dawn oil if I feel like painting winter. Meteoric bullet. Tainite iron bullet. You know, I've never actually read this, so the precise color of the hours where one cannot sleep. Meteoric bullet. Tainite iron bullets are occasionally dug from the skeletons of unusual beasts. Across Europe, the Middle East, and India, someone has been hunting monsters. Ghoul is more of a hobby. Okay, piebald pigment. Oh, I do actually have one of those. And the Book of the Centipede. And this does require translation, I forgot. So, let's jump into Kerisham. Drive through the downs to the coast where the grey-green land meets Atlantic grey. Search along the road for signs to Kerisham town. You will rarely find it, even if you have visited before, and its inhabitants guard their secrets with curse and cudgel and fast-bolted door. So again, the idea here, send our two primary instruments. I get to move all the locations down one. Slink along the streets to a once fine townhouse, surreptitiously case the back garden. Odd stories circulate about the woman who lives here. She might be an adept, a collector, or even a rare thing called empausa. We must be watchful. Alright, my recent work has been considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. Less important about people buying things now, just more about keeping what I already have. Astonishingly, we still have not become stale. So I've got 95 seconds and 114 seconds on Fleeting Reminiscence. Let's use my reputation as a medium right away. Another graveyard mouth coming up. And we've got a scarred bone fragment. Within this fragment lie memories of an older hour. Can you do sendings without going for a moth victory? Sure, you can do it for sendings for a heart victory. But ching. So far as I can tell, you can only get like the familiar at the Ecdysis Club. I don't know if familiar is the right term, but so far as I can tell, the prerequisite is something that you get in that particular piece of in that particular legacy. But it might be that other people. It just might be the case that other people. That there are other ways of obtaining it that I haven't personally experienced. I've only ever experienced the stuff that was introduced in the Dancer through the Dancer DLC. So, but so far as I can tell, yeah, actually, this is the big question. Can you get the job at the Ecdysis Club without actually having the Dancer ambition? And I don't think you can. I believe you need that ambition to be able to get the object for the sending. Hey, Duxel. No, this is the medium. So we are making slow progress on the palest canvas, or the pale canvas, but we are making progress. Okay, so let's start eating things. No, we will not start eating things until 18 seconds from now. The rousing air is gonna just kind of decay on its own, but I'll live with that. Okay, our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I can send another follower. So we've got a warded door, we've got watchers, and we've got the fifth eye curse. We are definitely well positioned to handle all of them. I'm going to avoid adding my weak moth followers until the very end. But for now, let's say our reliable Valsine is going to take point. Then I'll add maybe Clovat or Leo, and then finally we'll add Yuzabet. Yuzabet's actually a good addition normally because of her high winter, but we don't have any other winter to deal with the door. Okay, so more money for the medium work. I don't want to do anything with this Fleeting Reminiscence yet, so I'm gonna go lift heavy things. Unskilled labor like a mountain. Once again, I put my strength to use. And we'll keep the study verb open so that I can munch on some of the snacks that I found. The taste, the particular taste, the taste which is neither fair nor foul. It comes to trouble my mouth again. My tongue will swell, my lips will blacken. The elixir has set its spores within me, and only dead flesh can quell them. Okay, so formula, dedication, decrepitude. Feast upon a remnant. So this is what it has come to. I am not dead. I hope that I may be dead enough that this will work, as I hope, to unlock those memories that lair in my own flesh. Let's try the Ascent of Knives. Of the place my dreams took me last night, this has been written. The ascent is glass, the walls are knives, each step is blood. I did not climb far, the pain was too great. When I woke, that pain remained with me, a pain that I could employ to occult purposes if I hurry. I'm almost ready to start going through the spider door. There is kind of an argument for me to start doing that right away. Surely there is a an expired reason somewhere. Ah, right here. So yeah, I'm thinking I'll try for 7 forbidden epics before I try moving any of this up. Or sorry, before I try to go higher. And this is also just partially because I know that generating too many bodies too quickly, while it would be nice to it'd be nice to sort of get a bunch of spider door quests. It's also going to generate sort of a stream of notoriety that, because I'm also generating a lot of mystique, I'm going to have a hard time sort of managing it and getting rid of it. So, but we'll see. I mean, like, I'm at the point right now where I have more than enough places to investigate, so it's not like I need to rush to get to any of these other destinations. Okay. Violet is always very careful. And of course, because I can use these manacles, I can try and upgrade these people to the top level, but I'm going to deal with my sort of my existing roster. I'm going to get them to the level that they need, and then I'm going to make my super winters, because winter hasn't come up a lot in my runs. It's obviously the curse is going to be something where winter would help, but you know, I haven't had too much of a need to sort of make the most of these characters yet. So Enid speaks softly, and sometimes her gaze doesn't focus on anything visible. She sees things that others don't. So we'll start by adding the icy atmosphere. I'm pretty sure a white ceremony will do so. My follower will kneel as novice and rise as initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. Against the Watchers, a likely deception. Awake, awake, upon us. They're upon us. That way, quickly. Okay, so it looks like we do need to bring the moth in a little bit earlier. They say I can do the job of any 2 others together. That's not true. Not quite. So if I ever feel a need for vitality, I can use it. I've got 40 seconds left on the fleeting reminiscence, so I'm going to need to have a chat with Miss Nania soon, I think. Not much for me to do. Oh no, you know what? This will turn into fleeting reminiscence on its own, so we'll just consume that. I have a memory which almost seems my own. So I have a honeyed memory. When we walked in the ways of the wood, we were winged and watchful, and we had no need of nectar. Paint with this memory to bring it to full awareness. And looks like that does count. I think that counts anyway. So we will also enjoy the scarred bone fragment. Within this fragment lie memories of an older hour. I will grind it to powder and get it down. Their bewilderment is our opportunity. We'll pass in silent secrecy. Okay, so next up, I just need to throw a heart follower in and we'll be good. Now, I suppose this is the interesting question, what do I want to do with the work verb? I think we'll just try to bang out the 2, or no, you know what? I can only bang out one of the, only one of the memories, and that's because I'm going to have to rest my passion for a while. A forgotten color, our wings unfurled and shining, our scales lambent as obsidian. I have a savage memory inherited from who knows how many feasts, a sand-colored memory ready to paint. Long after the cause for rage has passed, the rage endures. Here is a memory of a wrong done before ever iron was tamed. And we're down to 2 graveyard mouths, so good news there. All right, well, as far as study is concerned, I think it's time that we got translating again. So Concursum Diaries are out of my reach, but the Leonine Tantra is available to me. So in the most notorious translation of the Leonine Tantra, Ashley Phillips is listed as the translator, but their existence is explicitly denied in the prologue. This confusion is characteristic of books which mention the Great Hooded Princes. Okay, let's go to the Painted River again. I hope that this is another secret history. Nope, erudition. The winter again would have been more helpful because of the influence, but the Painted River runs from a great chamber near the White Door, far through the Mansus to its far edge where it enters a painted delta of far cloud. I voyaged half its length last night with a stern-faced captain beneath a rust-red sail. As the clouds rose before us, the sailors raised a yearning shanty and close-hauled the sails to best use the painted wind. And all the while the captain and I discoursed of the secrets of the House of the Sun. And Enid. Enid sees what others do not. It is becoming difficult for her, but it is very useful. Okay, so in terms of the talk verb now, I'm able to... I mean, obviously I can try and do things with the weary detective and whatnot, but I think at this point, let's bring... we'll bring the A team to a proper A status, and then after that, maybe I'll start thinking of some things to feed to the spider door. But in the meantime, it's probably better that I just get people to the exalted level. I will also just take a quick minute here. So we've got Veneration Winter. This organization venerates the principle called Winter, in which we call upon the name of the sun in rags, the horned axe, among others. Society. Yeah, this isn't quite what I would want. This is going to be a little silly. I'm not wrapping up for tonight, but I am actually going to save and exit. I just want to see if there's something in the patch notes. Recent major updates. Detective rivals can be recruited. Modding framework. Quality of life changes. Painting now penalizes selling out. Okay, that's fine. Notoriety. G&G. Ghouls. Rivals being able to soft lock Ghoul. I did not know that. A variant winter cult can now be founded when playing Ghoul. Interesting. Okay, so it may be that if it says founded, then I suspect this means I've already lost the opportunity. Fair enough. I will not pursue it too doggedly then. So, I am going back through the stag door. In my dreams I know the path to the stag door through the maze of the bounds. Gearby will let me pass, but the path is always a puzzle. I will need reason. Okay. Talking. Right, we're going to turn Eau Claire into a better Eau Claire. Eau Claire rarely speaks. She chooses her words with care. Even her movements have become economical. She is never seen to blink. Invocation of the Ivory Dove isn't quite where we need it to be. Oh wow, I need to bring everything. Only a rare few, those most suited to service in our mysteries, may achieve this rank. Alright, so starting to exalt. We get closer to the curse, Karosh. I do believe I need more money for this, so let's throw it in. No, I'd rather find it on my own rag of dirt. It's just more, it's kind of more, the fact that I knew it existed was one of these things where it's like, I will try it if I can, but I'm not going to move heaven and earth for it, and part of the reward for the game has always been to find the things out. So I appreciate the offer, though. And welcome, by the way. I don't think I've said hi to you yet. Okay, so good news is I can get another fleeting reminiscence if I lose my current one. Season of Sickness is coming up, but we'll have some vitality set aside for that. Yeah, I think once I paint the Furious Memory, I can yeah, I'll paint one of the fleeting reminiscences, and we'll just convert one of the other ones into Restlessness when the time comes. Okay, so our wings unfurled and shining, our scales lambent as obsidian. Our eyes faceted like jewels, our claws unimpeachable dark. It's kind of neat how they give you only part of the message in the first bit and then encourage you to go back. I wonder if this were to have been made, like, if we were to go over and take all the lessons learned from Cultist Simulator, whether or not there would be more that use that technique. Okay, we'll almost certainly shatter the sworded door. There's no surprises there. Let's add Clovette just so I don't forget. I have a tendency to do that. And let's try the Painted River. Yay! The attention of the hours is drawn to the bloodiest wars. Afterward, the histories are braided like hair. It's a great chamber in the Mantis through which the Painted River flows. The vagabond, it is claimed, painted it from memory in the years before she left the house. Certainly, there are histories concealed in its design. I traced them with my hand last night. There were fragments of aquamarine paint beneath my nails, flecks of gold leaf when I was done. Okay, there's nothing that stops me from going through the stag door still, but I am probably going to want to start considering alternatives, namely the spider door. In this particular case, let me think. I will go back through the stag door just because influence can still be helpful to pick up. I need to work out a bit of a pipeline in terms of getting bodies without generating too much notoriety. But in this particular case, we will just enjoy the... this is the standard system chalk reading of the Winter Cult Exalt for... This is the hardest bit to read. A gaunt woman who is silent. The air is frosty, the candles gutter, the street sounds are hushed. Someone is here. Yeah, of course, Ragaderp. I mean, it's my first time on the medium playthrough, but I've definitely been playing Cultist Simulator for a while, so I'll do my best to answer any questions that come up. Okay, yeah, so I think I'm going to care... I mean, again, I do have this sort of implied goal now of wanting to get behind the spider's door. For now, though, I think I'm going to finish my existing sort of upgrade efforts. So let's take Violet, the Manacles, and the Invocation of the Ivory Dove. I also didn't read the text for this, so there is a power that commemorates and grieves, from whom nothing is taken, but who cannot be deceived. You might expect to be able to crush him in your hand into bird bone fragments. Use this in a rite with Martensite paste, and an assistant dedicated to knock or other resources of equal power to summon a maid in the mirror. Indeed, Freighter 5. Ragaderp asks, for the Enlightenment victory, is there any way to know when the exotic cravings will come? This is like when you eat, like one of your followers. So forgive me, I am really bad at remembering this, because the Enlightenment victory was the very first one that I got, and that is, I think, over a year ago now. If memory serves, I believe it is the season of ambitions that triggers that. So if you click on your time passes and you see the little hook icon, I believe that is when... I believe that's the signal that you get. So effectively, you get a minute's warning to prepare for the exotic cravings. Nepticross, thank you. Yeah. Again, I always feel really bad because it's like, it's obviously really memorable to me, that victory, but specific details like that. I believe you wait for the Season of Ambitions, and it's technically more than a minute, because I think you get like a little timer inside of that before they actually take up the body. Oh yeah, I also did a William Carlos Williams. Let me see if I can... Oh, you know, that joke is not that funny. But I did a Frozen Plums version on the first time I had somebody that I was going to use for a ritual, and I wound up gobbling them up instead. All right, in the most notorious translation of the Leonine Tantra, Ashley Phillips is listed as translator, but their existence is explicitly denied in the prologue. This confusion is characteristic for books which mention the Great Hooded Princes, so no different text based on the translation. We're just going to digest the translation jobs first, and then we can double back. So, yes, yeah. All doors must open, as all lives must end. This door has found its end here today. All right, we already knew that the Season of Sickness was coming up. We'll have enough with the Vitality, although I have a tendency to be a bit of a bonehead and use the dream verb prematurely. We'll see if I do that this time. And I have another fleeting reminiscence, so once we're done painting the memory, we will use this one, my job as a medium, and then I will... Oh wait, no, sorry. I need to paint the Furious Memory. Right, so I'll work the job as a medium with the Fleeting Reminiscence, then I'll paint with the Furious Memory, then I will convert this one to a Restlessness, which Miss Nania will... Sorry, I'll convert with Miss Nania, and that'll be the thing that I get my money from. Oh, sorry, there's a little more discussion going on. And if you're scared of using marks, you can hold that desire in your hand so it's not... Yes. Yeah, so it's an exploit that I used on the priest one a little more often, but I mean, they haven't corrected it, so it's, you know, it's a known factor of the game, but there are a couple of ways that you can quote-unquote cheat. All right, so our wings unfurled and shining, our scale... Is this a different color, or am I imagining this? No, it's just the fact that it's the black and white image. Okay.
I would never want to belong to any club.
Who did that? Regaderp, thank you very much for the follow. Sorry, I've got stuff covering my monitor on here, so... Okay. So yeah, I'll do the medium job to basically get the advantage of this. Furious Memory, we may not have the Fleeting Reminiscence long enough, but again, Miss Mania can turn it into Restlessness, which will buy me another 30 seconds in addition to how long the Fleeting Reminiscence lasts. And even, I mean, in the end, it's not the worst thing in the world if I lose a Fleeting Reminiscence. I'm a burly man, so I add 15 seconds to earning coin. It's, you know. Well, Regaderp, I think one of the most rewarding things to me, just to sort of piggyback on what Nepticross has always been saying. There have been a the greatest amusement to me is to sort of figure out the story behind the scenes of some of them. One of my favorite moments actually came from what we'll call the itchy access. So there was before the game was partnered with Humble, you could, if you backed on Kickstarter, you had a copy of the game that you could play while in development. And there was also a version of the game that you could buy on itch, and that eventually went away because the problem with living in the age of the algorithm now is that you can get this nice little steady drip of people who buy the game in early access. But if you want to sort of land on the chart, there's sort of this expectation that you make a big noise, and there's sometimes a worry that if you don't make enough of a splash, you're potentially going to hurt your chances of the game getting noticed. There's a little more nuance behind that because obviously Sunless Skies released a bit early than what I think people were expecting, and they were worried about that. Obviously, Sunless Sky is independent from Weather Factory's efforts, but obviously they were pretty frank about being concerned about the state of the game, and so, but clearly the release did quite well for them. But anyways, with all of that in mind, there was this wonderful moment where if a detective investigated you, it would generate a notoriety, as in like you could have done nothing wrong, but because the season of suspicion came up and the investigator was looking into you, once it closed, the notoriety came up. And that notoriety later on actually wound up being the thing that he generated evidence that locked up that player for. So I had this wonderful story of this wholly corrupt suppression bureau that effectively only ever created evidence for me by virtue of the fact that they looked at me the wrong way this one time, and my character was ultimately locked away for that. And obviously, you can read that however you want, but that just winds up being sort of a funny or tragic, however you want to look at it, interpretation of the events that happened. There was also one, I'm trying to remember, there was something that caused me to laugh out loud on a cast, and I feel like I'm missing the punchline to the joke, so I'll skip it. But one of the things that's really fun is that you're always given fragments of knowledge, quite literally in the case of the lore. But ultimately, the events that happen, card goes in, result comes out, and it's up to you to decide what happened. Right. I think actually Erratic came a little bit later, Nepticross, but I might be remembering incorrectly. And Cargo Room, yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like, it's almost, it's probably the right call that they got rid of that, but it does create for an interesting story. Now I remember what happened. So again, this might even be before the Kickstarter on this one. But there was, I wanted to basically get to the ending. It was a ritual ending, but I don't believe the whole, ambition system was in. So you wouldn't work your way up and get the marks and whatnot. And in that version of the game, there were no tips whatsoever for the cards. Any card could go into a slot, and if you wanted to brute force it, you had to deal with however many possible combinations you could form on the table. Excellent choice of quote. So essentially I get to this thing and it's you need to, it gives you sort of this arcane sort of this arcane set of instructions. So it's you need one of these, and a sacrifice. So, I'm getting ready. This is going to be the first time that I win the alpha of it. And, I put the ritual in and I go and I put a follower in the sacrifice slot and everything else goes in place. I run it and nothing happens. And I just had this wonderful moment of, the climax of the horror movie where the great sacrifice happens and my character, plunges the dagger down and everybody just kind of looks around and realizes that they read the instructions the wrong way, and it's like, oh crap, I gotta clean this all up now. It turns out the sacrifice I needed to make was money, but unfortunately, to whatever follower was the victim, we found that out a little too late. So in my case, I thought that was the funniest thing ever. But a lot of that interpretation is still in the game. Obviously, you know, again, card goes in, card goes out. There's a little bit of text, but there is just so much left to the imagination that if you have a silly tendency like me, there can be some very funny things that happen in the game. And if you're a little bit sterner, or if you just want to come up to a mapping of your own life, like the Aspirant was huge for me because I was just recently out of grad school when I started playing Cultist Simulator. So the Aspirant is basically grad school in a game form for me. But I think part of the fun of this game really is just finding some of the things in your own life that you can draw from that sort of enhance the story, and I've always found that rewarding. So that's why I wanted to sort of take that ball that Neptcross brought up and run with it. It does seem a little ornery that a cultist can straight shoot through an ascension by knowing what rituals to do. It makes more sense to go by trial and error. Well, I've had to kill my followers up until this point, so it all makes sense. Whoops, nope, okay, not trying that again. Cargo Room says, new player here. I thought that old lady wanted you to kill someone. It turns out she wanted a sacrifice and you couldn't provide one, so she took you. My favorite, I think this was in my Apostle victory. This isn't that long ago, so chat can correct me if I got this wrong. But my favorite moment with Poppy, there are some people who've been lucky enough to have the foolish, beautiful magic consume Poppy. In my particular case, I decided to take Poppy's offer in my very last action before I completed the run. So essentially, I would ascend, or in this case, another ascended. But in that particular case, I just made sure that I would actually complete the game before Poppy could collect. And obviously, we made a rude gesture on our way out. So, yeah, that's I think the standard is usually to use. I actually sometimes wonder if the Moth Follower is specifically there so that people... Because, like, I have a very conservative play. Like, I never want to lose followers, despite the fact that they're clearly very expendable and they actually get better when they get wounded. I almost kind of wonder if the Moth Follower was specifically built that way so that you would have one target you would always give to Poppy. Okay. Let's do... Yes, I have enough time for this, so let's... Oh no, I have 30 seconds that I need, so what? A commission would be kind of nice. Commission seems a little tiny. Yeah, screw it. Very substantial commission on the Secret Histories it is. So the one risk that I'm running into here is that I don't time everything correctly and my fleeting reminiscence goes away, but... You find you have the best luck sitting around, studying up on your stats before unpacking your bequest. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that the game did to sort of give a mild push towards not hoarding. But I do tend to find that, again, I don't think this is a good trait of me. I actually rather wish that I was a little bit more inclined to take risks in games. I actually think XCOM does a rather good job of making me try and do a few more Hail Mary plays. But I think this game in particular... I mean, I think also this is going to be what the Book of Hours sort of deals with. Like, this Sunless Sea, very wintry games. I think I've heard in an interview before Alexis saying something to the effect of, like, you know, if you're walking along, you know, this nice garden path, and then all of a sudden a bear trap, like, closes on your leg, this is horrible, and it's completely unexpected, and you don't really, you know, you might be really turned off by that. Whereas if you wake up in the bear trap. And, you know, this is also horrible, but you haven't had, you know, the enjoyment ahead of time. So basically, the kind of person who thinks that way is clearly somebody who maybe isn't indifferent to your pain, but definitely considers it a tool in the creation of an entertainment product, was probably the most generous way of saying it. So where I'm going with this is that because this game, while they have definitely done some things to make it a little bit softer than the earlier versions, and this would be the itchy access as well as the game as it was released at the very beginning. The fact of the matter is that, like, this game asks a lot. It asks a lot in terms of you being able to sort of combine everything. And to a certain extent, like, if you've ground your way up to just getting close to that victory and something happens to you to just sort of obliterate that effort, you're going to feel kind of bad, and you might want to stop playing the game because it's like, do I really want to go through all those layers of the doors and whatnot? Some people really like it. Like, obviously, I've got, you know, a couple hundred hours in the game now, so, you know, I'm clearly locked in. But I wouldn't blame someone if they're sort of like, you know what, this game just kicked me in the nuts one too many times and I'm walking away. So the Book of Hours sort of seems to be a little bit more built around sort of, you know, we're gonna, you know, we'll give you a game, we'll give you something to enjoy. It's going to be recognizable, but it's going to be maybe a little less demanding in terms of, you know, oh, you know, you didn't have an X at this point, you lose 6, you know, reason or something like that. There's no card that does that. But basically, I think one of the indirect effects of the way that the Book of Hours is going to be set up, something that's a little bit gentler to the player, it will probably result in less of an inclination to hoard. Because obviously, if you feel like all that time that you're spending in the game is potentially going to be destroyed by a run of bad luck, then you're going to want to, you know, sort of extra prepare yourself for every contingency because you don't want to lose the effort that you've already put in. Whereas if the game is a little bit more relaxed and the consequences of failure aren't that harsh, you're probably going to have less of a desire to just sort of sit at the starting gate, get as many funds as you can, up your stats, and then go on the adventure. Well, actually, I like that you've kept with it though, Ragaderp. Like, I mean, for me, I wasn't that bothered by the fact that I died, but there are definitely some moments where I've been really close to the victory, and I just like, oh, why did I do that? I've lost. And obviously on stream, I've used the cheats a couple of times to get myself out of a jam, but that's a little bit more kind of knowing that people are going to be not too crazy about, like, if I did something on Steam and people have like sat through a 10-hour cast to see progress, and then the very next episode that they've been waiting for, they wind up seeing, you know, oh, hey, I lost, now we're starting from the beginning again. I figure at least some of the people who had been waiting to see the conclusion would probably feel a little cheated by that. So I visited the Ascent of Knives last night, that harshest of roads through the house. It has been sacred to the Meniscate and the sun in rags since the intercalate, when the true sun was divided. When I woke, my room was freezing. The chill of it had cracked the window glass. All right, let's tidy up the desk a little bit. 17 seconds for my passion to come back then. I don't actually know that you need 4 passion to be able to paint this memory. I've decided that this is what I'm going to do. We have a new fancy exalted winter disciple. A kindly-faced woman who is silent. Sleep now. Don't worry about a thing. So I guess I can start recruiting some of these jokers, or I can leave the talk verb open to deal with the potential loss of the fleeting reminiscence. Neither. Hello, Saliba. Significant meetings in a smoky meeting room. What do I need from my follower? Sufficiently persuasive disciple can probably lure a susceptible companion back to us. Oh, but I need to use the bitter atmosphere. Well, I'm an idiot. I prepared the text for study. Yeah, I actually need to I need to bring people into the cult, otherwise this turns into despair. I got a little ahead of myself there. All right, the incandescent tantra. Michael Blockley, an eccentric iron magnate, was fond of quoting from this tantra. Blockley died in a factory fire. Let's go back through the stag door. There's a little bit less here for me than I would normally look for, but right, we are strong enough in heart to almost be entirely secure against this curse. Call upon the Ring-Yu who is renewed. Okay, sickness. I can use money if I get really desperate, but it'd be nice if I had a vitality to work with it. This gives me a reason potentially to work with my health, but we'll see what time brings us. So the one challenge is if I want to hang on to the fleeting reminiscence. So I lose the bitter atmosphere, but it's level 10. So I should still be okay. I think I can still get rid of this thing before it becomes dread, but I did kind of create some problems for myself doing things this way. I did not think through this location setup at all. Okay, let's just take a minute and think about what I want to do. Normally, I would want to paint with the Furious Memory to just get that off the board. Do I want to try anything else? Because I've got a fleeting reminiscence and a bitter atmosphere decaying soon. Okay, well, my next fleeting reminiscence comes up in a little while, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to buy myself some time. Then I'll work the Furious Memory, and I'll probably have to pay money to get rid of the Affliction, but I can live with that. Okay, Icy Atmosphere will... I still have another layer to go on the Icy Atmosphere in the worst case scenario, but I do want to make sure that I get that taken care of. I'm putting these all on the wrong line. All right, the Fire Circle Tantra. The one known extant copy of this in Western Europe was stolen from the British Library in 1892 when Harvey Haddington confessed to the crime and claimed to have eaten it with butter and garlic in a moment of ungovernable whimsy. Subtle Rupture would be really good for summoning stuff, but we've been ignoring summonings for a while now. I'll try the Painted River. Light leaks through the cracks. My mind is brighter than it ever was. The higher I rise, the more I see. And unfortunately, I can't use this for recruitment because I'm going to be using the Icy Atmosphere for recruitment. So I kind of blew it on there. I dreamt of the mantis behind the white door, of the great space above the orchard, that's the space that overlooks the bounds, the space where the vagabond once painted her river. Painted ships passed upon the painted river. I met the painted eyes of a painted captain. She saluted, and the motion was like the layered movements of clouds. The sail of the ship was amber, and the captain's eyes the green of new barley, and the river aquamarine. Now that I'm awake, I see the colors still. Okay, we're almost done with Karashim. Our power is stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. I gotta wait for Saliba to finish his job. Oh, right, well, we've got the Affliction anyway, so I think I'm just gonna pay to heal. It'll free me up for any other eventualities. A bunch of my Mystique is now gone. Okay, Season of Despair, that's going to be the next source for my Fleeting Reminiscence. We might just be able to outrun the Fascination if it comes down to it, but I've been paid my fee. It's difficult to say whether I've earned it. Fortunately, it's difficult for them to say whether I've earned it too. And now we will paint with the Furious Memory, the thing that we were intending to do all along. On a bed of dunes beneath a red, low sun, a monster wrestles itself while attendants crowd around its flanks. It's flabby and huge, the color of dirty sulfur. My minion is returned, attended by a prisoner, rendered docile with delight. We've got a hapless prisoner. Someone has fallen into your clutches. They won't survive forever. That's some good work there, Saliba, and he got me some extra money on top of it. Okay, first things first, let's bring... let's just bring one of the hangers on, and so... Recruit an acquaintance by invoking Winter. This says usefully malleable. They'll probably never amount to much. You might be able to recruit this acquaintance as a follower. So one trick that I use to get rid of fascination if I feel in danger, normally I'd put that in the influence slot. Even though I'm a winter cult, it just goes away on its own. But in this case, obviously, I needed to get rid of the winter or the winter influence, otherwise that would turn into dread, which is particularly nasty to get when you have bleak thoughts. So that's why I played things the way that I did there. All right, on a bed of dunes beneath the red low sun, a monster wrestles itself while attendants crowd around its flanks. It is flabby and huge, the color of sturdy sulfur. Fanged tentacle necks wrestle like kittens. It tears cheerfully at its own flesh, and the blood that flows is golden. It flops over in a cataclysm of wattled flesh, crushing a knot of attendants, and the others scream and cheer. All right, looks like... yeah, all of these just wind up having the same text. So normally I would be reading the works at this point, but I'm just going to take my Greek scholarship, will translate the Book of the Centipede, and then we're done. And I can read all of these as my A-team starts dealing with the continent, I believe. Yeah, it's the continent. Alternatively, I can try exploring the Forbidden Epics, but in this case, I think preserving my summons is a slightly higher priority to me right now than getting new locations. Okay, I will speak only in exactly 9 words. The novice will speak none at all. This one is loyal, but lacks initiative. So that's my forge pawn. Question now is whether or not I want to do anything else with the talk verb. I have a bit of time. So first things first, let's have a chat with Dr. Redeem about his commission. What the doctor requested. The sick room grows close and stale. It's time to get up. So, I'm very sorry, miss. Saliba seems like a nice guy, but in my dreams I know the path through the silken stands to the spider's door. If I slake its thirst by spilling fresh blood before I sleep, it will open to me. So, we need lore or a prisoner. I don't believe I have high enough lore, so I don't think heart moves me higher on the spider's door. Presumably Grail would. No, Grail gets me to the spider's door. I'm almost certain Lantern always gets you everywhere. And then maybe it's a winter thing? No. Oh no, what am I saying? If it's the spider's door, it's got to be Edge. Yeah. But one way or the other, I don't have enough lore to be able to move up. So, 1,000 apologies. The spider's door is always thirsty, always. The blood I have given leaks in threads and spills through the skin of the world, and the door drinks it, and in a moment's satisfaction swells its opening until I can pass. I always feel really bad about using the spider's door. On the topmost floor... oh, let's go back. Nothing remains to bar our way. Search the cellar first, then the upper rooms. We won't want to be trapped. On the topmost floor is an altar to the sun divided, which could be one of many hours. Sweep the items there displayed into a carpet bag, and let's make haste to the back streets. Fine work, Clovette. Obviously, you've got notoriety now. It might make sense for me to try and do a bit of a charm offensive, seeing as we have even notoriety and mystique at this point. Always happy to have Pergusagants in the mix. And we got bitter black salts. We've got Refulgin again. Nope. No ordinary chemist would produce these dark gleaming crystals, not without the touch of forge. And we've got a vital pigment. I'm getting close to finishing for tonight, but let's start, let's at least start another batch of expeditions. So, Key Hunter's Garret. Vienna is one of those few cities which has the same name in every history, although adepts know it as the White City, or perhaps the City of White. In a snowy street, in a crooked house, and a high and rattling attic, we have learnt that an eccentric hunter of imaginary keys has established a tiny trove of odd books. So as always, the Callagine and the Pregusigant lead the way. We chuck a little money into the problem. And once in Vienna, we hear that the key hunter has not been seen for many days. A local drunk insists that a great serpent entered the house to devour them. Certainly the house is unlit and boarded up. There is a reptile house smell. So we do have enough knock to help with the serpent if it comes down to that. Actually, it just occurred to me that I could have brought Porter in. Well, no, because Porter, Enid, and Neville at the time still would have been 9 instead of 10. So we made the right call. The only mistake was to doubt myself. I've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So some erudition, which is always nice. Dr. Redeem, Mystique. And the real question now is, do I want to try and get another body, or do I want to try and deal with this mess I've made for myself with notoriety? In this particular case, Season of... I can escape this, but unfortunately I lose my fleeting reminiscence. But I'll gain another one. Okay, so that answers that for me. I'm not going to talk with Miss Nania because I want to use this to get rid of fascination. And so what we will do is we'll take... Clovette, I know you've been working hard, but I trust you, so let's get you to do a charm offensive. Not everyone is sympathetic to our aims, but if we have problems with our reputation, our disciple can probably smooth them over. So the aim here is just to eliminate the notoriety, and this is because I know I'm not going to be using my reputation as a medium for a while. I've got, I've got the pale canvas that I'm working on. I am going to need to get some money, but I'm much more likely to be making money either with painting or with my physical abilities until I get another fleeting reminiscence to turn into restlessness. Okay, so we've got the younger sister, and we have got a hidden door. So lantern or knock. And, so we actually brought nothing of value here except a little bit of edge. So, Neville. These are all really well, done little icons. Okay. Let's try and give Clovette an easier time of it. So the idea here is that I'm trying to make it so that there's only one type of reputation for my follower to scoop up if the mission works. But this does mean that I need to find some inspiration for a painting. I don't want to make it the standard. You know what? Saliba, consider this your mugshot. I've prepared a text for study. Okay, so we are all good on our... Oops. We're all good on our texts here, so let's start by reading the Leonine Tantra. The Tantra describes elliptically the great hooded princes and the multitudinous ways in which they influenced wars against foreign invaders of the land of the Great River, although in a sense they were also invaders. So this is all the stuff that we found on the Hebe Stanton, but I wanted to translate it before we go through, because of course when you get to Karashim, you know you're not going to be getting any books, so I have a little... have a little stack to keep me going. Now, if I'm worried about the detective, I can take the favor from authority, but I feel like that's a really weak one to go for, because we're simply not going to be generating that much notoriety for the next little while. So I can try the Mallory or the Chamber of Ways. Which one do I think will have secret histories? I don't know, but the Chamber of Ways sounds cool. God damn it! All right, light leaks through the cracks. My mind is brighter than it ever was. The higher I rise, the more I see. Last night, I came into the concursum, the space at the center of the mansis, which has been called the Chamber of Mirrors. From here, the hours may pass to any place in the mansis. I saw the Meniscates rise in the cobalt glory of the chamber's light, dancer lithe, moon bright, and she reflected my face in her own. And this morning, that is all that I can see. That was definitely worth getting the notoriety for, and of course the Season of Visions is coming hot on my heels, so it doesn't really matter which one I use, but it is good to build the habit of getting the youngest card in the stack first, and I'm going to need to find a way of generating a Fleeting Reminiscence or Dread. Standards of Daylight Society cannot apply to us, but perhaps we won't emphasize that point. Perhaps we'll rely on charm and good humor. I have supplied elegant platitudes about the high principles of our organization. Apparently I'm only going through the motions when painting Saliba. But there's nothing to be ashamed of, nonetheless. Oh. That almost went bad. The serpent is long enough to coil around a cottage. Its fangs glisten like ice. Probably it will respect the power that we bear. Enid, please help please help Neville. The serpent's mouth is large enough to crouch in. Its tongue is the thickness of a man's shoulders, but almost certainly it will respect the power that we bear. And of course, this should take care of the serpent as well as the door. Recent work has accrued modest fame. My paintings have reviewed well. So, good work, Saliba. You sat still long enough and in the right way. It is, however, going to be quite difficult to get rid of the next notoriety. We did make good bank, though. So I've got a little staleness. Normally I would use passion for this. Okay, Season of Suspicion coming up. It's going to be a bit of a roll of the dice, but I think we can work with this. I'm going to take a minute with the... Nope, Season of Suspicion's coming up a little too soon. So, what? Let's say... I'm going to start with this setup. This time I will use Erudition as my... I was just trying to think if there was a way that I can get a moth involved in this, but there isn't. Oh, yes there is. We'll do a portrait of Yzabet before she shuffles off this mortal coil. It lowers its great head, moisture seeps from its lidless eyes. Is it weeping? What does it remember of its eldest sister, whose power we call upon? So normally what I would have done here is use the passion to try and get the staleness dealt with, but optimism is the spice which saves. Okay, so I would have tried to get Clovette to eat up... Well, you know what? This is still worth it. I'm not going to be getting any fleeting reminiscence for a bit. So the best that I can do is try a bit of a Hail Mary and hope that she eats the notoriety before I do. This is less about the money, although of course that's nice. It's either going to give me enough mystique to bury the Suppression Bureau in paperwork, or it's going to... Wait a minute. Yeah, and its original intention was, of course, to deal with the notoriety that would emerge from me taking that hostage. But clearly, I'm kind of past that point now. There's going to be more mystique than notoriety. Lines can be created not as children are created, nor as words are created, but as weapons are created. The great hooded princes learned to create lions from their spyings on the affairs of the hours, and not all lions serve the golden general. So I've got the colonel's names now. The colonel has been many things in many ages. He is blind, he is deaf, he cannot be wounded, he cannot be denied. His names are cunning as only the very old can be. So I believe I still can't get through the spider's door with this, but we do have a high-powered edge, which will be helpful in other senses. Of course, we've also had Biddy's Blade, if it was for summonings. So, I'm not quite desperate enough to sacrifice a follower for the spider's door. I am mildly tempted to try the white door. And this is just to get myself an insurance policy of a favor from authority. Of course, I also potentially get a fascination from that as well. So is there something else I want to do with Dream? I don't want to buy opium. Right, that's a way, not a influence. I can't change my desire, and I'm not sick. This is going to seem a little silly, but I'm going to go through the wood. If I have enough passion, I can walk the dream road to the wood. If I have the right knowledge, I might be able to find a way beyond it. So the reason I'm doing this is to maximize the number of times that I'm invoking Moth. And with that in mind, we will also do the Fire Circle Tantra. Herein, the great hooded princes are shown beseeching the wood to rise and devour an invading Timrid army. The Dapple King, the Honey Tree, and the Sea Twins all deny their request until they enlist the help of a burrowing secret keeper. So again, the reason I'm trying to invoke Moth in these cases is to get old, unhappy, far-off things, which will be restlessness, which then decays into dread, and that will help me with the fleeting reminiscence. So this should snap up a Mystique. Hopefully it's the fresher Mystique, but probably won't be. Nope. Alright, my recent work has accrued modest fame. My paintings have reviewed well. We got 3 money for that, so... But of course, the likelihood that Clovette is now going to take the notoriety is pretty unlikely. Of course, we do have enough now that it might sort of be a moot point. Like, it might be that this notoriety decays because we have enough Mystique. I don't know. Unfortunately, I need to make money. Well, I don't really need to make money. I think at the very least I can do these commissions, especially because we've got a Moth commission, which, as always, potentially gives us the opportunity to... I don't know if having higher lore makes it any more likely, but let's throw it at it just in case it does. This may be useful for a commission. Yeah, I mean, I'm doing okay for funds. I'm gonna lose them fairly rapidly because obviously I'm going on expeditions, so this is gonna mean that effectively I'm spending, 3. Well, nah. I think probably the better way to think about it is probably like two funds a turn for like 3 or 4 turns. More like 3 turns. But still, it's expensive, and those expenses can creep up on you if you're not careful. Alright, we call upon the beach crow who sees what is lost. Well, we bear a great power of opening. This will almost certainly find this hidden door. Alright, so she got rid of the Mystique, which is technically a help to the Suppression Bureau. At this point, though, I think it makes as much sense to just, race them, see if we can... this will help. So let's take the buzzing in the brain. Ingi rum imus nocteat consumi snip snip snip. A second order influence, apparent to the perceptive, instantly recognizable to an adept. In the midst of our journey of our life, I found myself in a dark wood without paths. It is difficult to express how wild, harsh, and impenetrable that wood was. I don't recall exactly what occurred last night, in the beating black between the trunks of the trees, where winged things moved beneath my hands. But now, this morning, my brain fizzes with fragments. Ingi rum imis noctean consumi mer igni rum imis nocteat consumi mer... So again, 60 seconds, this will become Restlessness, which I will probably turn into Dread, but we'll see what seasons come up. So, armed with blackmail material from the burrowing secret keeper, the great hooded princes petition the powers of the wood for a second time and are successful. 1/4 of the Timrid army is devoured by bees, 1/4 drowns themselves, and 1/4 disrobe themselves until nothing remains. And we have gained the Moldy Warp admonitions. So getting a fairly decent little collection of lore here. And what? I think I'm going to go through the Stag Door again, but I'm not going to go to the Painted River because that's where I'll get Fascination. There's less of an argument for me to be going to the Mansis at the moment, but I kind of hate having these things. I also should be reading books. I kind of hate having verbs not ticking. So, the Ceaseless Tantra, the avant-garde choreographer Nicholas Carroll supposedly incorporated this, Tantra into his menacing ballets. The Ceaseless Tantra is devoted mostly to warnings about the lively creatures called percussagants, but concludes with a chant which can be used to summon them. It observes that percussagants can be taught any dance, but they prefer only one. Sadly, we did not summon any tonight. No one understands us, or else they understand us too well. So I will not take advantage of the peculiar rumor, because that will just get me notoriety for nothing in return. Another season of Suspicion coming up, so it makes as much sense for us to try and get rid of that notoriety if we can. Okay. Manuscript's done. Let's have a... I will not work Jannings. I will, however, work on Heart. They want level 4, right? I don't really need the Vitality, so... And we'll employ Reason. And again, I'll need money at some point, but in this case I might as well get some commissions done because they're fairly straightforward. This feels so dumb to do it this way, but... my big worry, of course, was if a Season of Dread was going to come up. So as long as the Restlessness doesn't turn into something that will hurt me, I'm fine. At the moment, Dread is my salvation. Okay, so I've got a Subtle Rupture. Painted River almost certainly will have Fascination this time. So let's see what the Ascent of Knives gives me. Another Furious Air. Anger is implicit in every shape. I'm just going to move straight on to the next step. Back to the Stag Door. We're going to do just the same trick again. If we get a Winter Influence, I'll use that to upgrade a follower. If I get that which does not cease is not ceased, we've gained the Waking Chant. We'll read the Incandescent Tantra. This is the one by the industrialist who died in a fire. Dialogues with an entity called the Crucible Prince. The prince warns about the appetites of his mistress, the Burning Queen, and the peril of the naked desire she shares with the sun, but professes his loyalty nonetheless. So another Season of Fascination coming up again. That's good for me because it means I don't need to worry about the dread that will emerge from the Restlessness. And Ugh, that's upsetting. I think there is actually an argument to be made for another trip to the woods. And this is just because restlessness will give me an opportunity to generate more mystique by painting it. If I want, I can do something with the Furious Air. I can summon pretty much anything at this point, I think. I don't have any more commissions to write at the moment. So yeah, the question is, do I want to do a summoning? Yeah, let's give it a shot. Oh, right. Oh yes, my knock followers are occupied though. But that's fine because I just bring the Consent of Wounds. And if it's... No, actually, we would get a Maid in the Mirror on this one. So... A deep winter's cold to name and draw the maid in the mirror, edge to match her keen cruelty. This one actually works because I've got powerful winter followers. Maybe we'll get rid of the weary detective, if I'm so inclined. Ideally we'll capture him, but... Okay, well, I've got my old and happy far-off things now, so... The room stinks of serpent musk and burnt paper. Someone has comprehensively destroyed all the records they could find. They've even scrubbed the walls clean. Cold ashes choke the fireplace. No trace of the poor soul who rented this place remains. A single corner of the fire-curled paper survived the flames. In shaky hand, it reads Lady K. Green Chalcedony. 3-lobed spring leaves but unexpectedly, in a suitcase beside the flames, a little trove of books survives. Whoever destroyed the Key Hunter's journals saw no need to burn these books. Alright, so I've got my knock people. Of course, I've also got more notoriety for my troubles, so... And we've got the Irreproachable Traditions. The Irreproachable Traditions of the Society of the Noble Endeavor in Latin. We've got on the matter and the deeds of serpents. This was probably the prophecies of the Naga rendered into English and illustrated by William Midnight in Paris in the 1880s, but it shows a number of divergencies from the text. It is certainly quite recent by the standards of VAC texts, so I'm going to put the VAC just over here because these are languages we don't know. We've got the ciphered journal of Alessandro Lacrosse. Prince Alessandro Lacrosse spent years in secret study of the tablets taken from the Fucine marshes in central Italy. His work will allow you to read Fucine texts, but it's written in a simple Latin cipher. You'll need to decipher it first, so we already know how to read that. And we have the Serenity of the Blackwood, an allegorical history of the House of Leith, who it is here implied were inspired by the centipede. Sereno Blackwood is an occult alias to this day. So let's... I'll put this up here. And I think I'm going to say that's it for tonight. So let me get a quick trip to Foreman House set up. Philip Foreman, the helminthologist and antiquarian, did all his best work here at the family home until the day his subjects escaped. The infestation was destroyed, but Foreman, they say, walks the halls to this day, guarding his library and his shame. So, we will double these up. We'll throw the funds in. Unquestionably, this bleak mansion is haunted. The last visitor saw and fled the dead before they could touch him with their fraying hands. The visitor before that claimed she saw nothing, but she died of despair exactly 1 year later to the day. So I suspect we'll need winter or heart or possibly both. But that'll be something that we figure out next week. I am going to quickly find someone to host. I'll say thank you again for everybody who's watching. We've obviously made some more progress on the painting. I suspect it'll be a little bit of an effort to get over the hump, but this is the nature of the beast. I think we've got a fairly clear idea on what we need to do to get where we want to go. A bunch of decent people coming up, people online. I know Eyes of Sin mods for Elegy, formerly Elegy of Games, now just Elegy. So in this case, I think I'm going to try a raid on them. Now, I don't know them particularly well, so you don't need to use the "we're tired of system talk" or "this place was better." But I did used to host them a little bit more. They're playing something I haven't seen before called Dai Gayuten Saliban. Naruhodo Ryunosuke no Boken. So apparently this is something where they're voice acting it, and it's supposed to be like a fan project to to translate this. So it just seems to be I've been meaning to host them for a while anyway, just because obviously Sin brought them to my attention, but also just it's something unusual, so it might be fun. So again, you don't need to use the chat message if you don't want, because I don't know them particularly well, but I hope you have an enjoyable time with it. I will be back Friday. There is also a new episode of Surviving Mars. That vodcast will be starting at 7 o'clock. If you want the chat interaction, that'll be 7 on Twitch. If you want to watch the high-quality version of the stream, that will be unlocking at 7 o'clock on YouTube, just youtube.com/systemchalk. And I will have a Cultist Simulator thing coming up, probably within the next couple of weeks if all goes well. But until then, I will leave you with Elegy. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And if you're just here for Cultist Simulator, we'll see you next week. Oh, it says welcome to the chat room, so it's possible that the raid message didn't go through. I didn't see anything since... I'm bad at this. I didn't see anything since Cargo Room saying Cyrano Blackwood, not Algernon, and the sticky out tongue. So if you said anything, I apologize. I didn't see it. I'm going to stop filibustering my ending and just leave you in the capable hands of Elegy. But we'll see you there. Have a good night. And see you next week for Cultist. Tomorrow for Surviving Mars. Friday for the free day. And Monday if you want to watch a Paradox game. See you then.